we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us on in as we go all paranormal tonight with Ghosts of the Great White North. Yes, my main man Merle is here, and we got a great show tonight. From Haunted Discoveries, we got the entire crew of Brandon, Mustafa, whose beard is always on par. Malia and Kevin join us for the first times here. And it's going to be a blast. Just a freaking blast. All right, let's say hello to each and every one of you in our chat room tonight. We have Race Fan in the gold medal position. Kathy Evans taking home the silver with Roy Boy in the bronze medal tonight. And who else is here? Let's see. Mama Susan, just another guy named Harry. Dogface Simon kicking off the super chat tonight with a power Merle right off the bat. A power Merle. Very nice. Look at that. Roy Boy's in there for a Merle as well. Perfect. Let's get this going. Laura Lobbs, Kurt M. D. Cohen, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship. How you doing? And T-Bone. What's up? T-Bone will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Brown Dwarf, Ethan Cole from Northern Alberta. That must be Fort Mac or someplace like that. Good to have you here, Ethan. Travis William Moostus. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you, my buddy. Evan Walters, you're pissing me off already. Anilka's here. Anilka will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Mothman, James Weston, Forrest Louie, Jessica. Good to see you all. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. Jenny White Bear, thank you for coming on in. And there's Obi Flett merling it up. Yep, we love Obi Flett around here. Shane. What's that? Who's ready to get their Merle on? I am. How about you? Justin Hemmingson, Sandra Kincaid, nice to see you. Paramarv, John Corner, Science Melinda, Jessica McCreary merling it up. There we go. It's a good night tonight. Double day. Thank you for coming on in. Forrest Louie, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. Your nightly support, dude. I really do appreciate it. Much love to you, Louie. Much love to you. All right, continue on. Zoria, good to see you. And there's little Marky Spender wondering if I'm drinking water or Merlot. Very nice. Very nice, little Marky Spender. I hope the cheesies on your chest hair come out in the shower tomorrow. Digger Dog, good to see you. Richard Elmore, thank you for coming on in. Number 17 in your program, starting at center ice from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. All right, Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Yeah, Race Fan, we must Merle tonight. Shano's merling it up right there. Lauren P., welcome to SOR Chat. Zed Hut, good to see you. As we continue on with roll call, Angela Krause over on Facebook, thank you for coming on in. And Nick Adkins, thank you for joining us. Hi, Vash the Impaler. And Rob G., how you doing? Christine Lynn and Scrub-a-Dub-Dub, good to see you. Even Merle's merling himself. Look at that. Paul Holland, Paul Holland, strum away for us, buddy. Hi, Phil the Stalker, thank you for coming on in. Vanessa, how are you? There's Ozzy, merling it up. Bryson's Folly, welcome back again. Triple M, otherwise known as Cecil, thank you for joining us. Let's start the radio side, shall we? So that way we can get Bill WD-40 into the chat room to lube us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. Yeah, you do. Amy Vegas, oh, you're looking lovely tonight. Welsh Hammer, good to see you. Hi, Robert Lamoth. Dirt Road, good to see you. Izzy Stradlin Beth, she is merling it up. Absolutely, I don't blame her. All right, continuing on, who do we got here? Let's see. Stephen Edmond, he knows how to merle. Rono, thank you for joining us. And who else do we have? We're running out of time. Von Patrick, good to see you. Charles Kerr, thank you for coming on in. And Luscious Jewels, that's a power merle right there. Susan Alloway, thank you for joining us. And we're going to get going right now. I need a favor from each and every one of you. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey, TalkStream Live, Odyssey Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. A power show of paranormal tonight as we have the team from Haunted Discoveries here joining Merle on Ghosts of the Great White North. We are set up for some spooky stories tonight. Then in hour number 3, Tim Senor is going to join us for the UFO reports. Now, it is that time of the month where we bring in my main man, Merle, from the Paranormal Road Trippers out of Vancouver, British Columbia, for Ghosts of the Great White North. And I'm pretty excited because in just 2 days' time, Merle's actually going to be up here hanging out with me as we venture out in the forest to go find some ghosts and Sasquatch. Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. But this is the time of the month where we focus on the paranormal and everything around it. Yes, haunted buildings are so much fun, especially when you get to play in them. And we got some amazing special guests for you tonight. From the television series Haunted Discoveries, we have Mustafa Gadalari, Brandon Alvis, who always wears a black hat when he's on this show. Malia Molino and Kevin Ott are here as well, and we say hello to each and every one of them, and thank you for this incredible paranormal panel tonight. As Merle, you outdone yourself once again here, big guy. You did it. I don't know how, but somehow out.
Brought you a strong show tonight, Dave. They're going to go hard. They're going to talk about their show. They're going to talk about some spooky things. But most importantly, is my mic okay?
Yeah, you're looking fine. You're looking fine. You're sounding fine.
Good.
And I'm just excited to get you up here, man. You know, I really am.
I know. I fly home tomorrow night. Get home around 8, then back on the road at 5 a.m. to you.
Oh, I can't wait. Cannot wait. Yeah, we're going to keep that secret of what we're doing, but we're chasing down some ghosts and Sasquatch. Yeah, we'll keep that secret for right now. We're not allowed to say anything except that. But it's been a while since Mustafa, you and Brandon have been on this show. Mustafa, I know our radio audience can't see it, but your beard is looking fantastic once again. You know, nicely trimmed right to the core. And, you know, it's good to have you and Brandon back on, Mustafa, because like I said, it's been a while and I'm such a fan of you guys because I really think you guys, between you and Brandon, and we're getting to know Malia and Kevin tonight. You know, but the one thing I love about you guys is you do the paranormal the right way. You're not looking for stupid stuff. You're not, hiding your evidence under music. Okay. It's not like the guys from Never Finding Bigfoot, somebody farts in the background and oh, what was that? Oh, that's a squatch. You're not making stuff up. You guys are doing this for the right reasons. And I applaud you for that and your hard work that you guys have been doing, Mustafa.
I applaud you for lying to everybody about my beard. Thank you so much for that. It's really nice for you to do that. That's very kind. But yeah, I think it was just from like from day one, when Brandon and I we met in that weird competition-esque atmosphere that we got put on for ghost hunters. I was just like he was probably the only person there who I didn't kind of go like, well, I didn't think that he was full of baloney. I thought that you could see that he was really, really working with something honest, which was a breath of fresh air. And then, I just kind of followed his lead since then. And I was a big admirer of APRO and the American Paranormal Research Association. And it's genuinely an honor and a privilege to be a part of it. But honestly, I think he just hired me because, my beard is very, very good. And that's why he onboarded me. So that's the real reason.
Brandon, what is the truth behind that sexy beard of Mustafa's? I mean, let's just call it a spade right there,
Yeah, you're right. That's why he did get hired, first and foremost. But but no, his beard's great. Yeah, you will say that. But again, it's been great working with Mustafa, and it's awesome to be back here, man. Dave and Mike, thanks for having us again. This is awesome.
Always. Brandon, I'm going to leave it to you here because, the last time we talked, you guys were, trying to put something together. You couldn't talk about it at that time, but I'm assuming this is what the project was, Haunted Discoveries, and you've now teamed up with Malia and Kevin. So, Brandon, if you don't mind maybe introducing these two to the Spaced Out Radio audience, I'd really appreciate that.
Absolutely. No, it's, we've been working this over 2 years now, I think. And, I've known Kevin for many years, met him in Los Angeles. Gosh, Kevin, 15 years or so ago. And him and I.
2011.
Yeah, 2011. So we've been friends for quite a while. And then I've known Malia for a number of years as well. And when we started doing this project, we wanted to bring in a really great historical researcher. And she was the first person that came to mind. So we brought her on. But it's been great, man. So Kevin and Malia, both amazing at what they do. And both bring a lot to the table, especially when it comes to this project.
Kevin, how did you get started in the paranormal?
Oh, man. So I grew up in Southeast Missouri, a lot of riding around gravel roads, telling ghost stories, kind of all that kind of stuff. I worked for a local county sheriff's department there and started doing some side work for a private investigator. And him and his wife had a paranormal team. And, we got to talking about it one day and they invited me on an investigation and went with them, spent the weekend in an old Victorian house up just north of St. Louis, Missouri. And that's when I caught my first EVP and I've been hooked ever since.
For you, were you always a believer in ghost spirits, or was this a hobby that you just got addicted to and it just went from there?
I kind of believed. I had some family members that had some personal experiences, and so I always had the belief of it. But it wasn't until I went out with them till I actually personally experienced it.
Wow. And how about for you, Malia? I mean, you are someone who, is apparently this great historian. You're someone who is very much into this topic as well. Were you always into the kindred type of hauntings and paranormal adventures, or did you kind of fall into it as well?
It's really an interesting question. I mean, honestly, I can't remember a period of my life where the paranormal wasn't some sort of part of it. I just kind of always believed it. It was always a part of the family that I grew up in. But I've always loved historic everything. I've loved historic people, historic buildings. And so I think about 10 years ago, as a way to just kind of cope with living in LA and, the frustrations of life out here, I started researching locations that were, allegedly haunted, just because I was curious as to what potentially made them haunted, who was a part of it. And I never did an actual ghost investigation. I'd never been a part of a paranormal investigation. And a fun little fact, I was only ever originally going to be the history element of the show. And then in our first episode, it kind of was well, I'm here, and I've been researching these people and I'm really attached to these people. screw it. Like, maybe I do want to see if they're here. And then I just got thrown into the deep end with these guys. And I feel like I just got the master class of what this is. And I couldn't ask for a better team to learn this process with. And it's been an insane journey. So always been a part of my life, but I also kind of fell into it.
You know, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes luck has a lot of ways of pushing us into different directions. Mike and I, we've been friends for a number of years. We've always talked about doing projects together. We just lucked out and for you getting to work with people like Brandon and Mustafa. I mean, I would call that a blessing. That you get to work with these guys. And not to blow too much sunshine up there. But I mean, they're. The one thing that I've liked about what you guys are doing is there's no ego involved. There's so much ego in the paranormal, and there's so much ego, with people who and the rest of the television shows that do the exact same locations, just under a different name each and every season. I mean, you guys are out there trying to find the strange hauntings, the different hauntings, the ones that people aren't talking about. Brandon, why go that way rather than doing what everybody else has already done?
It would be very easy for us to fall into that trap, right? This very generic construct that is the paranormal field and is the television show specifically, where we can go into places with spirit boxes, go to every location you can imagine, from Eastern State Penitentiary to St. Augustine Lighthouse, whatever it may be, and just go there and be places that we've researched 1,000 times over, just walk in with the cameras and walk out. But for us, it's bigger than that. It's about the research, and it's about the historical context, and it's about trying to further the field the best we can. And we've been lucky to bring on some amazing people, other professionals from technical industries that help us in pushing that forward. But again, what we always say about this show is the main character of this show is the historical location. It's not as much about us. It's about the location. It's about the historical accuracy.
So many times we get lost on the location, Mustafa, where, it's Waverly Hills, it's Gettysburg, it's Waverly Hills, it's Alcatraz, it's Waverly Hills, it's Gettysburg, it's, Bobby McGee's, it's Waverly Hills, and that just seems to be the rotation that everybody does. I mean, and yet you guys going to find these little outcroppings, and whether it's an insane asylum in the middle of some small town rural America, or whether it's a haunted restaurant that nobody's ever heard of in downtown LA, you guys are tracking this stuff down. How does that work? How are you finding these, what I think are much better locations than what we see on television on a nightly basis?
Well, yeah, first off, I mean, I'd like to reject the idea that we didn't get into it for ego. For me, I entirely just went into it for that, and goth femboys. That's the whole reason why I'm in here, is just for goth femboy groupies and to feed my own ego. But that's the impetus that helps us find, I think, a lot of these great locations, especially for season 1 of Haunted Discoveries. We have a very clear thesis that is fueled primarily by one idea, and that's steeped in a lot of APRA's research. And Brandon has been working on this for a long time, and we've added to that research, which is the source of a lot of hauntings are familial in nature. So we have that thesis kind of inform our selection process. And you talk a lot about like how, like you and Merle, how that happened by luck. Like a lot of times there's like happenstance. I think when you're working towards and you resolve towards a certain goal, right? When things start working, because in life, so very little and few times do things actually work out. When we find something that works, or something that we feel like it could work, we're like a dog with a bone. We're like, okay, like what can we do with this? What more can we do with this? So I think that's what kind of like informed our process. Kevin knows a lot of people in the paranormal field. Brandon knows a lot of people in the paranormal field. Malia's an amazing researcher, and she'll look up places and little tidbits of information. I'll do research online, and we'll scour forums. We'll look through social media posts. Sometimes it's literally just asking somebody, like a local paranormal group in an area, hey, what did you hear about this stuff? A couple of years ago, I was constantly doing like different paranormal events and stuff too. Maybe we're not like featuring any of the locations that I went to on the show. But when I was in a location, I heard somebody mention something about a spot, or like, hey, this group knows some people, and then we just ask around. And it's a lot of times, as crazy as it sounds, it's literal just in-person word of mouth, and that's how we found a lot of these great spots. We just did the friggin' work.
It's not that hard. It really isn't. It's not that hard, Kevin, when you go around, every town, every city, every little hamlet or village has its own spookiness. There's always that one building that creeps everybody out. And yet, here we are, we're just starting. Your team is leading the way in discovering this, that there are more locations than what we see on the nightly shows or haunted hospitals or anything. Not to put down what they're doing, but I think what you guys are doing is really stretching out the parameters of what the paranormal should be. And I think that's a great thing, Kevin.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some of the locations we got, I mean, they're not even, some of them I don't even know how we found. They're out in the middle of nowhere, like nothing around at all. But one thing, with all the locations, like Mustafa was saying, a lot of them come from word of mouth. But after getting through so many of them, they all, it seemed like in some way or another, ended up being connected, which I thought that was very interesting. With Kentucky specifically sitting on top of the Mammoth Cave System, which is one of the biggest cave systems in the United States, and some other, phenomenon around here, it seemed like that drew a lot of activity from these locations, or helped add to it.
Do you find, Melia, that the more you get into the small town hauntings, the more exciting the stories are comparatively than going to the traditional locations?
Yes, and also more frustrating. So the one thing that I absolutely love about our show is exactly what you were saying. We are going to places where, and there's been multiple occasions, we are the first group to ever go in and investigate. And that is such a joy. I mean, it's tricky in its own respect, but it's such an incredible ride. Because like Mustafa was saying, like, you have to go with what's working, right? Like, you can come in with some kind of idea, often that just goes to crap, and you have to start over, and you have to go with what's actually working. Now, from a research perspective, the places that have been done, there tends to be a lot out there. When we are doing a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in a small town no one's heard of, you're just praying onto every prayer that there is a diary somewhere or somebody local that knows a story. And so it's a true scavenger hunt, which is why I love historical research. So it's very fulfilling, but also I want to bring to the guys all of this incredible information. I want to get to the nut of it. I want to know, who were these people? What's the little bit that we could lead in and really get to know who they are, humanize these stories, humanize these people. And sometimes, you have to rely on legend. Sometimes there just isn't cold, hard fact. So it's both incredibly rewarding when it works and incredibly frustrating if I have a hard time finding things. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's more exciting in that regard, because when we do find something, we're most often the first people to be talking about that. And that is really rewarding because it's fresh and it's new. And I feel like it's bringing these people back to life in a really special way.
Before we get to the bottom of the hour here in 5 minutes, the next half, I wanted to really focus on those locations and the hauntings and ghosts that you guys have really incurred over the time. But Brandon, I want to ask you this, because one of the hardest things that you can do as a radio show, as a YouTube channel, or putting together a television show is to do it independently, where you're the one financing it. You're the one who is taking the chance. You don't have any, script. There's no contract. There's nothing. You are building everything from scratch. How hard is that to do for the public out there who may be, thinking, hey, this stuff's pretty easy. I just go chase ghosts. Somebody brings a camera, boom, we put it on television. It's not that easy if you don't have somebody backing you. You guys have done it very independently, and your professionalism and the way you've conducted your interviews and your investigations have shone right through to allow these producers and everybody to kind of take a look, say, hey, we got something here. Tell me about the difficulty of that.
It's extremely difficult, man. I mean, like you said, if you haven't been involved in that process, it's hard to understand it, right? So there's so much moving parts. It's such a difficult thing to do, but it's all about the work at the end of the day. It's all about putting your heart in the right place, putting your nose to the grindstone and just making it happen. So if you are true to the work and you're true to yourself, good things will come out of it. But again, you have to get out there. You have to do all the research. You have to make sure you know exactly what you're doing from a pre-production process, as far as having the locations lined up, knowing what those locations are, knowing exactly how you're going to tackle it from a filming standpoint, but also from a research standpoint when it comes to the paranormal. But Dave, it's extremely difficult, but it's not impossible. That's for sure.
How do you go about capturing someone's attention when maybe they heard of you on Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters or whatever the ghost shows are out there, but they haven't been following your work, and these people are getting approached left, right, and center? I've got the next $1 million Ghost Adventures. I've got the next $1 million Finding Bigfoot show, or whatever it may be. I mean, how do you get around that? Because there's so much competition that is trying to do the exact same thing you guys have just done.
Yeah, it's oversaturated for sure, but again, it's about sticking true to the research and just being honest first and foremost. I think that's a big part of it, is the sincerity associated with it. And I think people have a nose for that, especially in the business, but also just people that casually watch the shows, or people that are trying to find entertainment in the paranormal, that I think they could smell trickery from a mile away, if you will. So I think it's about being honest, being sincere, and putting your heart in the right place, and trying to do the work properly.
For sure. And I could see where that would really come into play here. And, putting together a high quality team who also has that same vision, that makes it even more difficult.
Absolutely. No, it's tough to find the right people, right? And again, Kevin, I've known him for many years. Mustafa and I work on Ghost Hunters. I've known Malia for many years as well. And when Mustafa and I approached Kevin and his company that he works for, Kevin's been producing for Stargazer Films for a number of years, and they were looking to do something paranormal. And Mustafa and I had a lot of ideas on the table, and we went to Kevin and we started talking, and it just snowballed from there. And we were very lucky just to be in the right place at the right time with the right people. And now we're about to air on T&E here not too long from now. So we're excited.
So excited for you guys. So excited. And for you, Mustafa, I mean, how do you feel about getting back on television and getting this ball rolling here?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to piggyback off of what Brandon was saying. I mean, I think the key was that him and I were constantly, I mean, I text Brandon more than I text my wife. I mean, him and I are constantly working on stuff all the time. We had so many different ideas. I think I counted before we entered into agreements with Stargazer, 49 different pitch meetings with different people. That's just meetings. That's not pitches that we did. Like, it was 49 different pitch meetings over the course of I think almost 2 years. So persistence is key. It sounds corny and all that, but we had a vision and we had an idea of what we believed in doing. And we said, hey, no matter what, we're going to do it. So again, it's awesome to enter into this deal with T&E, and it's awesome to get our stuff out there. I'm just really, really more pumped. It sounds kind of crazy saying this and corny, but it's I really don't care so much about the fact that it's on a network. I'm happy people are going to see it because we found some really, really cool stuff, and I want to keep doing this, and I love what we do. But yeah, again, it sounds so kind of after school special, but I think the key is that I'm just fighting. God, it sounds so inspirational, but I'm just fighting every time to enjoy what we're doing and to really, really love what we're doing.
Beautiful. Goes to the Great White North. Yes, we will let Merle speak in the next half hour. Brendan Alvis, Mustafa Gadalari, Kevin Ott, and Malia Molino from Haunted Discoveries on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we are clear. We got 5 minutes. So just so you guys remember, our YouTube audience and our podcast audience can hear us. Our radio audience cannot. Merlington Steel. What do you think of that one there, Merle?
It's not bad. Not bad. Not your best. Oh, there goes my camera.
Oh,
I have a shoddy setup because I'm not at home. I used a 3D printer to mount my camera, or 3D printer thing. There we go.
That's all right. Oh, here was the picture I was going to show you guys from the barn. 1 second here. Oh, not slides. Hold on. Share screen.
Love a good barn.
There. 1 second here. Make a how can we put it? A jail cell out of there?
That's so strange.
Yeah. Yeah, not cool. Let's see if we got any other pictures.
I have a theory about the jail cell, actually. Being a gold rush or stopover, a lot of unruly people go to and from there. Now you install a jail cell, I think that adds heat. And if you have unsavory or more older ways thinking ghosts, they're going to avoid that place like the plague, in my opinion. So maybe that could be why the activity has gone down. Also, it's not original to the building, so they're probably like, what is going on here?
Hold on. Let me zoom out here. That's one of the good ones right there.
Ooh, that's creepy.
What the heck?
Yeah.
That's creepy as hell.
It's like Q from Street Fighter Third Strike. What is that?
That is a beautiful shadow person.
Sick. It looks like Jeepers Creepers, man. What?
Yeah. I don't know what that
It's a
picture
nightmare.
is.
Dave, do you have the upstairs photo?
Hold on 1 second here. I'm looking.
Oh, way to go. That's a nice start.
Okay.
That's
Here's a picture here of you see on the left are what we call the shadow person, and he's reaching down, and you can see his arm reaching down and touching the K2 meter, lighting it up.
Wow. Wow. Creepy, man.
Yeah.
That looks like a set picture from Alien 3. It's gnarly, dude.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Wow.
Wait, where was this taken?
That was taken a couple of years ago.
That was in the barn, right?
That's in the bottom of the barn. That's the haunted house that's on location.
Oh, that looks fun.
Yeah. Then there's this guy here. You guys have seen this photo.
That is freaky as hell, dude. That is so creepy.
Yeah.
That's my nightmare.
Looks like
A lot of
strangers.
The guy on the stairs there. Yeah.
Hell, looks like the strangers.
Yeah, that is scary right there, man. Is that the guy that you were talking about, Dave? The one?
Yeah, that's the guy we were talking about. And there's some orbs. This bear actually comes and talks.
That's crazy.
What does it say?
It loves to be pet.
Oh, what? Oh, man.
The more you pet it, the more you it actually will respond to questions.
Kind of like a lot of the bears in Hell's Kitchen, New York. That's crazy.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah. Then we had there's some weird footprints that we found in the snow one day. That's the post house that scares Mike. Hold on here. Let me get where are we here? Oh, here's the great photo from Mike a few years ago. You can see in the doorway there's a spinning wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, whoa.
If you look behind him, you can see the alien.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Looks like some sort of figure for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And big thank you here to our good friends, Lala ×2, Simon Louis ×2, Jake W. Decker, and Laura for the super chats. We're going to start off with the second half hour here right now. Stay tuned. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate tuning in tonight, talking all things paranormal and supernatural with Merle on Ghosts of the Great White North. Hey, if you have missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with Ghosts of the Great White North. Merle from North America, Vancouver, the Paranormal Road Trippers. Merle, we're going to let you talk this half hour if you're okay with that.
I'll ask a couple questions. I was enjoying the last half hour. It's good. I don't need to be talking. Let's hop back onto your show, though. What makes it different? I'm pumped to see it. I love your trailers. What will make it stand out? What are you bringing new to the
man. Well, I think that bringing in professionals from other technical industries into a show that obviously you see kind of the talking head aspect sometimes of someone looking over a piece of data or looking over a photo or a video, but actually bringing a scientist into the field. That's one big one. So we have Dr. Harry Clore, who has joined us on this journey and came out with us on, wow, how many cases did he do, guys? I think like 13 cases with us?
Maybe like 15?
Yeah, 15 or so cases. And he actually went into the field with us to show us what, adapting real scientific methodology into the field would look like. And not only that, I think it's also the key detail and the look and a deep dive into the historical context of these locations and what that really means to supernatural phenomena, or what we believe to be supernatural phenomena. I would believe that those two probably make this show a lot different. And again, the central character are these locations and these stories of these people that came before us and very possibly could still be in these locations. So yes, the show is us going to these places, us investigating these places, but the real central character, again, is the location and is the historical context associated with that place.
Yeah, and then I think just for behind the scenes stuff that not a lot of people would immediately know is that both Brandon, myself, Kevin, and Malia, we all have pretty extensive backgrounds when it comes to like working in entertainment. We know what a set is like, and like a set, and we understand that we know what it's like on a paranormal show, or we know what it's like in reality shows when people kind of like overproduce stuff. The great benefit that we have is that Brandon's editing this whole thing. So when we have points that we want to discuss that are integral to the investigation, there's really no butting heads with like an editing bay in terms of like, this is what the episode needs to be about. What we find is what makes it, what is part of the investigation, and what is the most integral points that we believe, because we're a part of the pre-production process from soup to nuts. That's what makes the cut, is what's integral to the investigation, what's integral to the stories of these places. So we're not going in there with like, we need to hit these numbers. We need to like, we're not like doing lines off of like a desk somewhere and being like, yeah, this needs to like be like this. Like, this is what's going to make for good TV. It's like, no, we know the audience isn't dumb. And that, we're making, we know that like when we tell these stories faithfully, the stories of our investigation and the stories that are associated with these great locations, that's what's going to make for compelling TV. So there's really no disconnect between the producers and the talent of people you see on camera. Is like what you see is what you get.
Yeah, I mean, we're all the producers on the show. And so, we all know what people want to see. And I think what I really like about it is anything you see on the show, nothing is pre-done. When we uncover something on the show, you're seeing it in real time as we're experiencing it. That's one thing I like about it. And, another with Malia's great research work and stuff like that, a lot of what we've learned about some certain locations over the years from different shows, we found out it's not true. And getting into that actual history, which is actually the truth is stranger than fiction most of the time. It's nice to be able to, shed the light on the actual true history of these locations and what could be causing the hauntings at them.
I completely agree. And I think it goes back to like the lack of ego, because I do think we have to pre-produce each episode. We have a beat of like, okay, we know this stuff. Let's see if this actually happens. Very often things will happen or we'll get new information and it does turn. And I think because we're so all in sync and we all are like here and we're in it and we're the crew, we're all down to just go where the story takes us. And there's no ego. There's no, oh, I want to do this, or I was going to have this bit, or it's like, none of that matters. It's like, this is the story. This is what's happening. We got to go on this path. And so I think we're all really good at thinking on our feet, and we also all trust each other. So we all know our strengths and we play off each other. I think personally, I'm a little biased, but I think we do play off really well because we're all actually friends. And so I think that does help. I think the chemistry of the team and the crew, it's like, it's not just us, it's the extension of the people that are in there experiencing what we're experiencing live. And they're so open-minded and they're so down. And I think that really helps. And I think that's kind of the little bit of the magic of what we have.
The locations that you guys choose, how do you go about choosing these smaller town locations? What drives you there, Malia?
Oh my gosh. I mean, honestly, there's so many locations, and we start with like a really big list, and it just keeps like, we whittle it down. And I think it really comes down to, what are we most attached to and like what speaks to us the most? I think every story is important. I think we all agree that every story is important, but there is something about certain stories that will grab you. And I think that's kind of the collective feel of the team. It's like, okay, this feels right. Like we all know how to go about this, at least a starting point. And so I think it's a bit of it is emotional. I think it's like we're connected in some way to these stories because again, they're all human stories, and it's just what resonates with us. And so each season we've had a little bit different of a thesis, but like Kevin said earlier, somehow they all connect. And I think that's been the great joy, is really seeing the interconnection of all these locations, even when we weren't seeing it. So I think it feels right. Like there's so many to choose from, right? It's like, you just got to go with the one that resonates.
Merle?
How do you separate lore from the actual history when you're going through all these locations, or like the word of mouth rumors stories that happened in 1888?
I mean, you gotta play. I mean, I think legends and lore are incredible starting points, and I love to work backwards from them. So it's, if there's key names, there's key dates, there's key places. Oftentimes legends and lore have a historical connection. Oftentimes it's what their legend isn't true, but there's usually surrounding circumstances that have somehow for some reason created this legend. So that's, we have a couple really fun legends that we explore in a couple of our episodes, and some have been very frustrating and some have been incredible, because even though you might not find truth to the legend, and it really is, it's about finding as much documentation as you can. If I'm dealing with a story from the 1880s, I'm not going to be able to speak to someone that was there, right? Maybe you get a relative, and even then you're talking, it's a game of telephone from a descendant of what they've been told. So you can never belittle or demean somebody's personal belief or what they choose to believe. And the choice of belief is a really big thing. And so I think you do as much as you can. You talk to as many people as you can. You try to, you get in the dirt and you get in the mud and you look through every archive that's possible. At the end of the day, sometimes you just got to be like, well, it's still a legend and we did the best we could. And at the end of the day, you're not going to find every answer. And that's honestly kind of the fun of it.
And what's really funny, like episode 2 in season 1, which will be airing here pretty soon, it's completely centered around one specific legend that is just kind of part of the fabric of old Louisville here in Kentucky. And a woman buys this home to turn it into a bed and breakfast, which it was already a bed and breakfast. She's kind of buying it moving into the house and taking it over as the business. And she really didn't know the story and the legend associated with the building prior to moving in. And the crazy thing is, I mean, this legend is kind of told as fact here in Louisville. And it's a wild ride. But the crazy thing is, and how that relates to the paranormal and supernatural side of it, is that there's people that have been going into this building for many years and witnessing this specific entity or apparition, whatever you'd like to call it, of this legend of this woman they said lived in the house. And we go in and we find some really, really crazy results. I mean, it was really mind blowing to see how belief plays into what we perceive to be paranormal phenomena. It's really wild stuff.
My question to you is, Mustafa, how are the ghosts different? Going to these small locations where maybe they have never been investigated or talked to, and then all of a sudden you guys show up and you're having these conversations comparatively to what we see on TV, where it's the same locations with the same ghosts and everything the same way. How is it different in a small town or in a rural area?
You know, it's weird. I don't think that there really necessarily is a difference. I think the difference is with the investigators and how you're approaching the investigation. I'll say it, like, every time you see us genuinely surprised when we capture something, it's really because I never take for granted that like something will happen. There was a string of investigations that we had where we just kept getting stuff and we were getting things. And I just remember looking at Brandon and I was like, I don't freaking know how we're going to keep this going, but like, hey, like whatever it is that we're doing is resonating and it's working. And I think it's just the difference lies within how you approach the investigation. I think just like I've said this before, and I can't say it enough. I think if these are presumed entities of people who have lived and they're persisting after death, just like with human beings in life, if you're working with honesty and it's like if you see somebody's really, really, really working their hardest, how can you not want to interact with them or communicate with them or help them out? It's like if you go to a fight gym and you see somebody's busting their hump and they're really, really trying to work on their bag and they're coming in early and they're leaving late. If you're like a really, really great fighter, they're going to go and they're going to show you, like, you know, the novice, like, tips, right? Or you're going to try to want to help them out. The same thing if I see with somebody and they're trying to get a show produced or whatever, and you know I have some degree of success or whatever it is that I've done, I'll be like, hey, and I'll give some pointers like, hey, what you're doing is great, like keep down this path and do that, because you feel that honest fight from somebody. So we're literally just there, like just willing to toss out everything that we've worked on to follow something new that we've discovered, because that's what we think where the kernel of truth or whatever it is lies. So I just think that like there's really no difference in the types of activity. We're not trying to technique stuff per se, but we do have a methodology that we follow, and we're very, very quick to abandon any kind of preconceived notion we had about how we're going to approach an investigation if something else is working. So I think it's just working honestly, man. It's like that's all it is. That's all it is. We're just really, really trying to be as sincere as possible and not forcing anything when we're in there.
I can see that. And for you guys, I mean, take us to one of these locations, surprise us with one, and tell us the story behind it. Brandon, let's start with you.
We'll go back to this legend, right? So there's this legend here in Old Louisville about the story of Annie Whipple, right? So there's this location right across from Central Park in Louisville, Kentucky, a place that's known now as the Louisville Bourbon Inn. And it's right down the street from something called the Witch's Tree. Just crazy stuff. Right off the bat, you're like, okay, this is awesome, right? You got this Central Park, you got a witch's tree, you got the story of this woman named Annie Whipple, who is said to have been a caretaker of these children that become ill. And in order for her to save these children, she goes to a voodoo priestess to get this magic powder to try and bring them back to life. She goes in, does this seance, puts this powder on a table and starts automatic writing and contacts the doctor, a doctor that just passed away that lived right across the river, who gives her this medication from beyond and from beyond the dead. And she saves these children. That's the legend, right? It's just wild stuff. You hear this. And then, lo and behold, we go out there. This witch's tree is very real. It's still there. People bring offerings to it daily. It's there. Mustafa brought his own offering to it as well. Malia does all this historical research, ends up finding an Annie Whipple in a newspaper at one point. Is that connected to the former Houston house, what's now the Louisville Bourbon Inn? We're not quite sure, but this story has been told for over 100 years, and people have seen this woman in the house. They've seen her on the back servant staircase. So we go in, we bring in a woman who practices the Spiritismo, who practices all kinds of different religious and spiritual beliefs. We recreate this seance that was conducted by Annie Whipple. I mean, to the T. Everything that is said to have happened in this legend, we recreated it. And lo and behold, something shows up in the exact spot with the exact eyewitness testimony, and we capture it on a very specific scientific piece of equipment. It's just crazy stuff.
Mustafa, what did you give? What did you for the offering? I need to know.
I mean, I offered well, I offered my soul. That was one of the things I offered.
Whatever gets the shot, right?
Honestly, now that it's the first time I thought about it, it probably explains a lot of my life the past few months. Yeah, I offered my soul for one of the things, and I offered a nicotine vape and a piece of chocolate. I went for the chocolate because I gotta have my vape, bro. But yeah, my soul was definitely on the table. Yeah, and wow, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I think I don't have a soul anymore. So whatever, man. And the crazy thing that I think Brandon didn't mention is that we didn't see that in real time. I just remember like we're at another location, and then all of a sudden I hear Brandon go like, I'll do the PG version. He's like, dude, what the F? And then like we go, and then I look at the computer screen, and then he played back what we captured on this device, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's unreal to think that. Like, then that brings up all these cool things about like paranormal theory. Thought form manifestation is the constant repetition over all the years from all these people telling the story over and over again, bringing it to life. Kind of like your girlfriend's friend saying like, oh man, your man stinks, like, he sucks. And she's like, after a while, she's like, yeah, you know what, he does. And then she dumps you. I'm not bitter, as you can tell, but like, yeah, like that it's kind of a similar thing.
That's something that we tend to see a lot with a lot of these locations. Is a lot of these small towns have nightly, weekly, monthly ghost tours where these stories are continuously told over and over and over again. And does, the thought of them being told that much keep the spirit alive? Whether it's something that's, like Mustafa said, thought form manifestation, or, what's causing these to stay there. And I think that repetition is a big help in that.
Well, see, that's the difference between the United States, where you guys are, in Canada, where we are, where a lot of these areas where we are, they don't want to deal with the paranormal. They think, there's the very progressive people in tourism who feel that these towns need to start embracing that type of past in order to create new tourism dollars. But up here, man, you could go to locations up here that have never been investigated, ever. And we're talking, you take the Gold Rush Trail from where it starts in San Francisco, making its way over to Reno, and then starting its way north right up to Alaska. Well, that trail is 3/4 of a mile behind my house. And you could walk any part of that trail, and it is haunted. That entire trail is haunted. And so when you go out there and you're looking for these stories and you're looking for them, they really are everywhere. It's just a matter of whether or not you're taking the time to actually look for them. And like up here, it's untapped. But you talk to people. I remember talking to one guy. His farmyard, his ranch is over 13 miles long. 13, never mind acres. Let's get into miles here. And he says, if you go about 7 miles that way, and he points, he goes, and you go onto the original Gold Rush Trail. He goes, you'll see a little girl there. She runs the trail back and forth. He goes, we don't go out there anymore. It creeps me out.
Damn, Dave, you're scaring the hell out of me, man.
But isn't that the point? You're not going to find that, by going, Bobby Mackey's, same spirits every time. It's pushing those portals. Yeah. Don't even get me started on the woo factor here.
Hey, we can talk about Bobby Mackey's if you want. We actually did an episode there.
Yeah.
So we can go down that rabbit hole if you guys want. We went there, and I think we did a pretty good job cracking that case wide open.
I agree.
And that's good, but you guys take like the way you've explained and the way I've talked to you even off air, Brandon, you guys take a way different approach than what the average viewer sees. And I think that'll be the payday for a place like that. If you take a fresh and you celebrate the location. It's not about it's not about the chest puffing of, oh, there's a notch. We did Bobby Mackey's. You celebrate the location and you dig instead of go off what the latest YouTube channel said was a haunting there. And I think that's where watching your episode of it versus a different episode of it will be a big payoff. And like I'm anxious to see that. I think you guys will probably have some good stuff out of there. And was there a portal? This is true.
Well, what's funny, you mentioned celebrating the location, right? I mean, one of the coolest moments of filming at Bobby Mackey's was sitting down with Bobby Mackey himself, right? And Malia sits down, interviews him very candidly. He says, I don't think the place is haunted, right, Malia?
Yeah, it was incredible. To him, it's just a country music palace. It's his dream. It's a happy place. It's a place to be celebrated. And it was such a great interview. He's such an incredible guy. And I really do feel like we got to celebrate the honky tonk, as Mustafa would say. I think he says honky tonk about 27 billion times. He loves it. But it really, it was a happy place. And I do think we have a very, very different take on the location.
When you were choosing the locations, okay, how much, as we only got about 45 seconds here, so be a quick answer. But Kevin, how much do you all have say in where you want to take this next visit?
We put together a list and we go through them all. We don't want a location that's just supposedly haunted. We want a location that has interesting history and story to go along with it. So we'll get a list of things, we'll go through and we'll see which ones make the most sense. And then the hardest part is trying to schedule them all at a time they're open where we're not backtracking all across the state and all over the place and try to get them just kind of in a line. Luckily, somehow they've all managed to fall into place. I think that was kind of meant to be. But that's probably the most difficult part. But we all kind of put our heads together and figure out what's going to be the best story. And that's what we go with. And so far everything's turned out to be great episodes. And I'm really looking forward to everyone seeing it.
Love it. We got a great show with Haunted Discoveries crew, Brandon Alves, Mustafa Gadalari. We got Kevin Ott and Malia Molino, along with our main man Merle from North America and the Paranormal Road Trippers. We'll be back with hour number 2, All Paranormal Talk, when we return. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear. You guys having fun yet?
Oh, yeah, man.
Bye.
It's always a fun time with you, Dave, Mike. You guys are awesome.
You stop it. You stop it right
You guys
there.
are my favorite show. I swear to God, I tell them to stop all the time. This is like, some of these other ones can be really tough to do, but man, you guys are awesome. So
I was remembering when I did a podcast, it was one that was called I think Junkyard was in the name, but like they were just really, they had like dogs barking in the background. It was really bad. And I was like, well, I guess I know where you guys got the name for your podcast from. And they were just like, they got quiet. I was like, I'm just kidding. I wasn't though.
I wouldn't have. It's funny because I've because of all the UFO news that's been going on the last couple of years, we mainly focused upon that. But I don't even know who to interview anymore in the paranormal. I really don't. It's very tough. Normally you would just go online, find a team, and find out their stories or whatever they're doing, and go in and book them for a show. And now they're getting harder. The other TV peoples, half of them seem to have disappeared right off the map. And then you got your Too Good for Everybody television shows that, no matter, even if you offered them $1,000 to come on the show, they're still not going to do it. You're not going to hear back from them because you're too good, or they're too good for you,
Yep. Unfortunately, it's pretty sad, man. And I think that kind of shows, who's realistic about their research and what they're really in it for, And unfortunately, there's some out there that Mustafa and I have had run-ins with over the years, especially after Ghost Hunters, the crazy storm that surrounded that. Just by being on that show and having an opinion of your own creates a monster within itself. It's really weird out there, man. It's really weird.
Guys, I'm going to be right back. Merle, you man the hatches here.
I got this, guys. I got this. Now, let's talk about Dave. What do you want to talk about? You want some tea on him? You want some gossip?
Yeah, no, right.
That's good. Gossip about Dave. How's his hair so shiny? It's so nice.
I don't know. I'll find out this weekend and let you know.
Oh, please do. Yeah, snap a photo of the kind of shampoo he uses. That's really important to me.
I'm going to fill my water cup. I'll be right back.
All right.
It's cool talking about your location where you had the folklore. That's exactly what we're encountering at that ranch we're going to this weekend. There's a folklore of a lady, Madame, who had Ladies of the Night pimped out at that post house Dave showed. Her name was Agnes McPhee. And the rumor is she would murder miners coming to and from the gold rush and take their gold. That's the word on the street. There's a whole book written about her. There's photos.
What's the name of the book?
I can send that to you on Instagram. I just Agnes McPhee, 108 Mile Ranch. I'll send it to you.
All right. Sounds like my
That's
alley
awesome.
for sure.
That's so cool.
You just said all the things that Malia likes to hear. You got a madam, and she's pimping out women, and then she's stealing doubloons from men. That's just like all up her alley. She loves that.
It really
And
is.
then the following
really
weekend, I'm heading to a silver rush town that's untapped, like of paranormal stuff. And I'm having a meeting with the council there, and they want to film or have their town discovered paranormal wise. And the amount of brothels and jails that are up there that like aren't even open or been cracked open in years is amazing. So
That's rad.
that'll be fun.
For once, I'd like to visit a town with a still operating brothel. I've yet to come across one. So
Vegas,
Nevada, dude. Yeah, exactly.
trust.
yeah.
they exist, dude.
Oh man, I think I'm haunted, dude. It's like, nah, you just got crabs, dog.
Why do you think Zach Bagans lives in Vegas, dude?
Dude, whoa.
Tower rash, dude.
Dude, bro.
But yeah, you guys should come up here to these places. I say that every time.
We got to, man. We got to. That'd
We
be
want to,
awesome.
man. Trust us. We want to. We've been talking about doing the Great White North for a while now, man. We would love it.
Then we're filming.
I'm Northwest all the time, if possible.
Yeah.
I'm from the Northwest, so that's my heart song right there.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll be in Spokane and Idaho, actually, the beginning of August, second week of August.
Oh, sick.
Brothels, man.
Gotta
So,
love them. They're
yeah.
my favorite. If I could only just spend my days in historic brothels, I would be just peachy. So happy.
My friends live in this house from 18, I think it was 1880 or 96. And our team historian, Doug, researched 5 deaths in it within 5 years, like in the late 1800s to the early 1900s.
Jeez.
And we investigated it in March. And man, that place is active as heck.
Damn.
Love this
Wow.
place. Now he's back. Stop talking about him.
Yeah, that's right. Stop it. Stop it already. Hi, Tim Mothman. How you doing? Debster, nice to see you. Susie B, it's been a while. How you been? Who else has jumped in here? Excuse me. Late. Low Pro, how you doing? All right. Here we go, guys. Just give me 1 second here.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here comes hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Caesura. Caesura is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is Ghost of the Great White North. Once again, we got our main man, Merle, from the Paranormal Road Trippers, based out of Vancouver, British Columbia. He joins me once a month to talk everything paranormal and supernatural. And from Haunted Discoveries, our special guest tonight, Mustafa Gadalari, Brandon Alvis, Kevin Ott, and Malia Molino is joining us to hang on out and talk all things ghostly. Everybody, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's been a great, great show so far.
Strong show.
Strong show, Merle.
Strong show.
Yep. Very strong show. In this, as you guys are getting ready to shoot this new series, Haunted Discoveries, on T&E that's coming up here, you know, what caught you off guard this time around, comparatively to ghost hunts and ghost investigations in the past, Brandon? You know, what really set you back with this one? What makes it different? I'll get you to unmute your mic if you don't mind.
Oh man, that's a tough question there, Dave. There were so many things that happened while doing this show. I mean, we've shot 32 episodes at this point, so we're talking 32 different locations. We were just recently down in a coal mining town that was really shocking to us. And we were out there for, what was it, 10 days, guys, right? We were out in this very small rural place with not many people, but with just heartbreaking and bloody stories associated with it. And a big part of that was not only learning about the history of these mining wars that took place there, but also seeing these people. I mean, some of these stories date back to the early 1900s, in 1940s, 1970s. There was different union wars and different strikes and bloody conflicts throughout the years. And to go out there and see how that's affected that town and how people there, one gentleman we talked to was in his 90s and was there talking about how he would walk to school and see bodies just on the ground that would be shot between these skirmishes between the union and the workers. And it was crazy, but to see how they're still affected by these things that happened so long ago is kind of shocking. You know, it's something that I'm not used to from being from California. now living here in Louisville, but going down to these areas and seeing how history still has an effect on people is something that really threw me for a loop, and was something that I had to take into account for the investigation, because it just became that much more real in that instance.
The investigations that you guys did, Brandon, was there any one in particular that really stood out, that hit home with you?
Oh man, I would say probably Perryville, the Battle of Perryville in Perryville, Kentucky. Uh, Probably the bloodiest one-day conflict in the American Civil War. Had the most losses on the Confederate side for officers. We're talking about a battle again for one day where it affected the town for 100 years after. But us actually going out there, I knew my great grandfather was in the Civil War, excuse me, and I knew he was on the Union side and he was from Ohio, but I did not realize until we were going out there that he was actually in Perryville. And I have a photo of him where he has only one arm; he had one arm amputated, and it's very possible that he lost that arm in the Battle of Perryville. So that was, I guess, as close of a familial connection I could get to something like that, because it's known that my great grandfather was at the Battle of Perryville. He was there. He fought and possibly lost his arm in that battle.
Kind of brings it home a little bit. I mean, when you kind of tie things together, were there any other synchronicities along this road trip, Malia, that really caught you or caught your attention?
That's a really good. That's a really good question. I don't know about that. I mean, I think for myself personally, and this is just like a personal journey, never having been a part of paranormal investigations before, been to, allegedly haunted places for as long as I can remember, but actually practicing the act of trying to make contact. There was an episode in our first season, a place called Hall Place, where I felt so moved by what we were experiencing that it made me cry. I mean, and I feel like for me, as a person that has had a lifelong fear of mortality, I think it was the first time on our journey that I really felt like, for me, I was getting proof that there's consciousness afterwards. And I was having a real conversation with a woman that I had learned a lot about. And, she wasn't a deeply historical person. She was someone that, passed away within the last 30 years. And that was something that I would have never expected. Because you go into these places, you think historical, right? And this was an old place. I mean, we're talking, early 1800s. And so that's not what we were intentionally going in thinking we were going to kind of, make contact with, and it just took this insane turn, and it affected me in a way that I don't think I've ever kind of recovered from. In a way, I think it just opened my eyes to something. But I do think there's been a progression personally of like what to expect going into things. And I do think we've experienced things now where I now know that, things can be scary and it's not always this heartwarming experience. And so I'm more guarded, I think, than I used to be as far as like self-protection. So each season, I think I protect myself and I prep in a way that I just didn't know to do in the beginning. So that's been really interesting. So I think there's been a real mix, but there's always kind of some familial connection everywhere we go that has always kind of surprised me. Even in the weirdest like places like a prison, you'll find this deep familial connection and you're like, where did this come from? And that's just the consistent through line, even we're not looking for it. And so I think that's been kind of a really beautiful, consistent thing we found.
I love the synchronicities of everything on how it pulls together. How did you guys, Kevin, really come together as a team while on the road in trying to make sure that everything gelled and everything, went smoothly?
I mean, the biggest thing to keep everything going smooth, we spent months in pre-production, prepping the locations, prepping the travel, prepping everything that we could. And just like we said earlier, the rapport we have with each other and the way we kind of feed off of each other. Once we got on the road, everything went surprisingly very, very smooth. We did have a couple hiccups that worked out right away. There was a location in season 1 we were supposed to go to in like 2 days, and they called and said, hey, sorry, but something busted and the place flooded. We can't do this. And within 45 minutes to an hour, we had another location. And so it's just like, we're really good at working together. We're good at solving the problems and just kind of pushing forward through it all.
I love it. I love it. When you guys are on the road, how does it work for you? Tell us how, when we view that your television show when it comes out, Brandon, how does it work for you guys? Take us from beginning to end. Just a little synopsis here.
So we start in Louisville, Kentucky, and it starts as what is a hunt for a research facility. So with APRA, the American Paranormal Research Association, which I founded in 2006, one of the biggest goals I've had and the organization has had is trying to find a location that has factual supernatural phenomena taking place. So we set out to try and find a location that, one, has activity, and two, is possibly going to be our research facility, a place that we could buy and possibly live in and monitor 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So that was the goal. And then all of a sudden it just morphs into this whole other journey where we start to see these crazy familial connections like we've been talking about. We start to see that there's a overarching theme with the familial side of things, but also with the fact that there's more to this than we'll ever understand. And one big thing with this specific season, in the first season, is that we look into something called the Kentucky anomaly. And that's something we didn't really know about prior to going out there, but it's something that we researched heavily and something that became a huge theme in the show. And it starts as a hunt for a paranormal research facility, then ends up being something that we never expected. It's pretty wild.
Merle.
The Kentucky anomaly. Can you give us a little bit of what that is? I'm really curious now.
So in the 1970s, NASA coined the term the Kentucky anomaly, and they started to observe that there is higher gravitational pull in parts of Kentucky than anywhere in the world. And not only that, you have the Mammoth Cave system, which Kevin talked about earlier. You have limestone, calcite, quartz, all these things that are underground, many of which can cause the piezoelectric effect. So you're in an area that has so much belief in superstition, the paranormal, whatever you want to call it. You're being pulled a little closer to the ground, and you have all these other factors underneath the earth. How is that affecting what we perceive to be supernatural phenomena? But you have this gravitational anomaly, you have all these other environmental factors, and then you also have a huge belief system out here. So that's something we explore heavily in the first season, and actually bleeds into the next 2 seasons as well, because there's something to it. I mean, if NASA looked into it, they coined the term, they kind of closed the book on it without really ever having an answer on it. So it's definitely an aspect of research that we needed to look into, and it's something that we're still actively looking into to this day.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite moments dealing with the Kentucky anomaly is that when we had our researcher, Dr. Harry Clore, when he came in, in the second batch of cases we did for season 2, we had him speak on camera about something, and then we were talking about some research we had from NASA, and he had added to it, and we're like, well, we didn't come across that. And then you saw this kind of look of concern like wash over his face, and he's like, because he consulted with NASA. And then he was like, did I just say something that was like classified and I wasn't supposed to say? And then he goes and like runs to his laptop and then goes and he's like, oh, no. Okay, no, they published this. Okay, good. And he's like making sure. And I was like, whoa, we're dealing with the real deal here, ladies and gentlemen. It was so cool.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Are there cases in this field that are highly controversial, or cases in your show that are highly controversial? I know what Merle and I are working on right now. When we're filming this weekend, it's at a very highly controversial location. How do you guys feel about going into those type of locations?
I think when you do have anything that's controversial or anything that's going to, like, you know, ruffle people's feathers. I mean, heck, I mean, Brandon, he referenced this this mining town. There are people who still felt very, very, very strongly about, you know, the politics surrounding these union and mining conflicts. To this day, you know, some people, you know, kind of sided with the companies a little bit, and some people sided with the unions, and they felt very strongly about them. I think as long as you go in with an inquisitive mind and as like a journalist, and you treat it in a human way, nobody's really going to get mad at you. You're there to kind of have them tell their story. And I think people saw that when we were interviewing them and when we were, you know, really, really digging into it. We didn't have an agenda. Our only agenda was to document paranormal activity. So I think people, they saw that. You know, we went in as documentarians. We're not trying to force a narrative. We never are. We let people say whatever they want. If they want to rephrase something, they can say it. We're not trying to feed them talking points. That never once happened. So yeah, I think for us, it's like there's really no subject matter we won't delve into, because anything that we're not an authority on, we get people to talk about that, and we get people who know more about it than we do to be the authorities on that. If we're getting somebody to talk about mountain magic, I'm not going to go and pretend like I'm an authority on mountain magic because, you know, I hurt my back as a kid and my grandma cracked an egg on it, you know, and started doing some stuff. It was like, that's not mountain magic. That's just something my grandma did, probably just to mess with me because she wanted to crack an egg on my back to get me to forget about, you know, the pain I was feeling at that time. So, yeah, like, we don't pretend to be authorities on things that we aren't authorities on, and we let other people, you know, tell their stories and what they know.
Earl.
Back to protection, Malia, just from what you said earlier, when you said you just started doing the investigations and you've learned along the ways on how to protect yourself doing them. What do you do? What's your process to keep yourself safe?
I mean, I do have a little like thing I say before I go into certain places, and I do have certain protection things that I wear that are just personal to me. But honestly, if I'm going to be totally honest, I think it's trusting my gut in a way that I think there was the kind of like doughy-eyed, like, whoa, we're experiencing things, and like running, you know, head first. I mean, I was always not saying that I was the bravest in the team. I'm absolutely not. So I was not the one running when things were happening. But I think there was this, our first season was a lot lighter in a lot of ways. The cases we were doing was a lot more family history, and it just gets darker as the seasons go on. Like our second season, it was, you know, it's a lot of Civil War stuff. You're dealing with a lot of like slavery. It starts to get really emotionally traumatic at times. So I think first season, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. This is nice. We're talking to like nice old ladies. And then the second season, you're like, oh, this feels really bad. And this something is not good here. And so I think for me, it's now having gone against my gut, gone into situations where I truly was like, I genuinely don't feel comfortable. I should have trusted myself. I should not have gone in this space. And to the point, and you'll see it in the show. There's places where, I mean, there's certain cases we go to where there's a history of violence towards women specifically. And, you know, we all have different things. And so if I feel safe, I will absolutely go into places and kind of be the female guinea pig to see if will the activity change if it's just me in this space. And we have a female cam op named Emily who's great, and her and I will paddle together and we will go into these spaces, and that's incredible. But beyond that, now, you know, you just have to trust yourself, and you'll get that feeling. You will know, like, this does not feel right. And I might be the one feeling it, or other members of the team have had the same thing where it's like, you know, I can't be in this space. I feel nauseous in this space. And so I think it's that self-protection, to listening to yourself and not feeling like just because we're making a TV show, do we have to put ourselves in danger? It's like, it's not worth it, because you don't know what the outcome is and you don't want to push it too far. So for me, that's what self-protection means.
Did any of you, during the 32 episodes that you filmed so far, did any of you get attacked? Did any of you get a spirit come at you? Mustafa, you're kind of smiling there. Did you get attacked? Did you get invaded by the spirits?
No, but something did happen at one of the locations that manifested physically on Brandon at one point. And it's similar to something that I had happen to me on a case we did for ghost hunters in Kevin's hometown in Cape Girardeau. So yeah, I mean, Brandon, I mean, what was that? What did that feel like?
Yeah, no possessions, Dave. No possessions, my friend. We had some strange things happen. Nothing negative, I would say. I did have an instance at a really, really creepy location called Bethlehem Academy. That was originally a governor's home. It went through all these different phases of its history, but it was a Catholic school at one point. And all these stories about scary nuns and stuff like that. The typical Catholic imagery, like the nun, the Conjuring films and all that. But we went in there, and I actually did have something physical happen to me, but it wasn't scary in any way, shape, or form. It wasn't like I was attacked or thrown to the ground, and it didn't feel frightening to me. But I did have an instance where there was some scratches that showed up on my arm. But again, it was nothing I would say was negative or terrifying or was trying to be malicious in any way. I think it was just some strange occurrence that maybe someone was trying to reach out in some way, and that was the only way they could do it. But again, no possessions, nothing like that.
Perryville would be the closest for me. Whatever went on there, I'm still not sure. I didn't realize it was happening in the moment.
Yeah, that was weird. Kevin's
thinking that. Yeah, that was.
His entire demeanor changed, and it was like, I remember it's like me, Brandon, and Malia. We all kind of looked at each other, and like Kevin's talking to us, and it didn't seem like him talking to us. And we're like, "Hey, man, why don't you just just have a seat, like just sit down." Like, and he's like, "No, I'm fine." He's like, "No, you're not. Like, just have a seat, dude." Like, it was, I don't know how to explain it, but it was weird. And then we had members of our crew and even our sound op, like where we were at one location where it was like something was hissing right in their ear. And then I kind of heard something similar when I was by myself, like a very, very charged kind of creepy moment. And then there was instances where we were at an old hospital, and this was in the latest batch of cases that we did, where we had witnessed something that was, I mean, something straight out of like a sci-fi or horror movie, like where we encountered it. And I remember after it had happened and we saw this thing, it occurred at the end of this corridor, and it really, really kind of felt like you were possibly, it sounds silly to say it now, but in that moment, it felt like you were walking into another dimension, for the lack of a better term. Everything felt very, very electromagnetically charged. I'm a big guy. I'm like 240 pounds, 235 after I used the bathroom. But I was I'm walking down this corridor. Brandon walked down it first. And then he's like, it was actually a really nice moment. And then he's like, "Yo, Mustafa," he's like, "Hey, come down here." And it felt really cool to be walking with my friend into what felt like at the time, the unknown. I mean, we could have been transported or teleported to somewhere, and I felt completely light and weightless in that moment. And then I walked down it with Malia, and it was just a very, very kind of cool, ethereal, otherworldly feeling that I actually thought about. Like, I had like a really nasty bike fall like a couple months ago, and I actually thought about that while I was falling off the bike and sliding on the asphalt. And it was like a weird, weird, weird moment in my life that's like a core memory, to borrow a phrase from a Pixar movie, but I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it for as long as I live.
And on that note, everyone, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Hard to believe we're already through half of this radio show tonight. Ghosts of the Great White North with our main man, Merle. Diamonds and Merles, they call him. Yes, from the Paranormal Road Trippers in Vancouver, British Columbia. And he joins me once a month to talk things all ghostly and paranormal and spooky. Tonight, our special guest from Haunted Destinations, Brendan Alvis, Mustafa Gadalari, Kevin Ott, Malia Molino. Yeah, we're having a great time tonight. So glad you're riding the Woo train with us. We'll be right back in the second half of the show. haunted discoveries. Sorry, guys.
No, that's all good.
All good, man.
Pisses me off now.
This time definitely flies by.
Does. I'm not in Vancouver. I'm in Winnipeg. Right, Dave? Where am I?
You're
Talked
in
about it earlier.
Mosquitoeville.
Yeah.
I'm in Winnipeg, you idiot.
Nobody
I
admits
actually,
that.
I looked up a team here and went out with them on Saturday night and did some Winnipeg ghost hunting. It was pretty good.
Oh, very cool.
Watch how they roll out here. It was interesting. So,
You're interesting.
I am very interesting. Hey, it's 2 hours ahead, Dave. I'm tired. Kevin, were you in enforcement? Did I hear you were a sheriff?
Yeah, I was a deputy sheriff and an assistant coroner.
Did you have any experiences in that field?
I never did. I've heard stories from coworkers that did, but unfortunately, nothing ever happened on my shift.
Damn.
That's what I said.
I've had a few in mind. I do enforcement as well. I do I investigate like animal cruelty and all that stuff. And I go to a lot of sudden death calls.
Mm-hmm.
And allegedly, I had an attachment with me and the medium I was meeting that night that wanted to come out on an investigation with us. This was a couple of years back. He described this dead guy to a T and said he was extremely upset at me because we also found a couple bags of green stuff under his bed when we were there. and we took that away. And he was really upset that we took it. And then this medium had to, like, quote unquote, send him off from me because he was attached to me. So,
oh, wow.
Interesting stuff. Yeah.
Now I would always go hit gravel roads and stuff, just looking for places to explore and just kind of looking around for things. But unfortunately, it didn't happen.
Yeah, no. I like talking to people in enforcement, just hearing their stories too, because a couple of my friends out here have had some really. One of my friends, he arrested someone. This was a couple years ago, and they kept saying they were possessed by the devil and demons and the whole 9 yards. Just, I was like, I want to be there to watch, but whatever.
I picked up somebody once that was apparently exorcising demons out of the trees in their backyard.
Wow.
That was an interesting conversation on the way to the office.
And what kind of prescription did he have before that?
Whatever it was, they weren't taking it.
Nope. Cool. But so, Brendan, when does the show air in Canada? Do you have a date for it?
Yep, October 6th.
Awesome.
Yep, it's going to kick off Creep Week.
Sweet. And then it's weekly? It'll be on?
Yep, weekly. Cool. Yeah, they're going to be airing the first season, which is 8 episodes. So, and then I'm not sure when I think spring's going to be the second season is when they're going to air that. So I know they do that free preview event in spring as well. Can't remember what it's called. Spring Scares or something like that, I think it's called. So I think they're going to air the first season to kick off Creep Week during that free preview event. Then I think they're going to do the second season during spring.
I appreciate how you guys are like producing it yourself, editing it yourself. Because like talking to producers there, you tell them what you want to do. We want to do like a historical, paranormal research style show, but they can't grasp it. And you give them a bunch of things to watch or kind of getting an idea of. And it takes people in our field, I think, to really be able to edit and produce it and not have an outsider.
Yeah, I think my bosses were really shocked when they seen what we had put together in the first couple episodes of the first season. Enough to where, like, the second season, they were just like, here you go have fun. And then we delivered another great project.
That's awesome.
But it's nice to have the complete creative control over the entire project.
Absolutely. And it keeps your morale up too, because you're not doing it for the man and you're not being puppeted. And I think that's what'll be a lot different watching your show versus some of the other ones out there. You guys are just rolling hard with what you do.
Yeah, and like nothing's put into it. Like even when we started season 1 and was talking with our post sound team, they're like, if you respond to a noise or something, we don't hear it. Do you want us to put something in there? And we're like, no, absolutely not. It's like, if there's a sound there, you can amp it up some, but no, nothing gets added that's not there. And so we had that mutual agreement right up front. And that's, that's one thing I can say about the show is nothing in it's manufactured. Everything is as it happens.
Give me 10 seconds here. Thank you to our super chatters. Vaughn, Lara, Lala times 2, W. Decker, Jake, Louis times 2, and Simon. Thank you very much for the love. And here we go with the next half hour, everyone. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for tuning us in. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Paranormal Road Trippers from Vancouver, British Columbia, based out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. Tonight, Merle is here once again for his monthly feature on Ghosts of the Great White North. From Haunted Discoveries, our special guest tonight, we have our good friend Mustafa Gadalari, Kevin Ott, Malia Maligno, and Brandon Elvis and his famed black hat with us tonight, hanging on out, talking all sorts of paranormal spooky stories on their new adventure, Haunted Discoveries, which will be seen on T&E coming up later this year. I'm so excited for you guys that you got this going. And I'm going to be honest, it's rare that I get pumped up for a paranormal television show. It's very, very rare, and the idea that you guys are out there really teaching a different type of history. When you have gone through, Mustafa, we'll start with you here. When you have gone through a lot of these buildings and these locations that are going to be new to a lot of people who are in love with paranormal television, did you ever, in talking about the history, did you ever get any historic quotes via EVPs from any of the ghosts or spirits you communicated with about what it was like?
Ooh, yeah. Actually, on one of our last investigations that we did, there was an EVP that we captured at this really hard to get into location. I mean, we were trying to get into that for a while. And thankfully, Brandon really, really represented our work in the best possible light with the way he edited it. And then Kevin had showed it to the individuals who run this location. And we actually were able to get in because of somebody, who we worked with at the Perryville battlefield. And he's, we were telling him, he's like, there's a place you should definitely get to. And he named it. And we were like, we've been trying to get in there. He's like, I'll make a few phone calls. And after a few nail biting months, we were able to get in. So we got this EVP, and just the tone of what the person said, combined with some of the knowledge we had from a person who's like a dedicated historian on site at that place, really, really, really kind of put the whole thing into perspective as to, one, not only what the EVP meant, but two, what informed us about how important this location was to this individual and the work that they did and their place in American history. So, a very, very, very amazing figure who was controversial at the time. But the EVP that we got there was absolutely incredible. And it was great too, because in the moments leading up to us capturing that EVP, Malia and I were having a lot of fun, going a nice little back and forth, a kind of battle of the sexes, if you will. And it was really, really great. So how that happened, you could even if you wrote that out in like a script in like a movie or a TV show, it wouldn't have played out as great as that did. So yeah, with it to culminate and that really, honestly, it's a stunning find that we captured there. And it sounds so arrogant for me to say, but it's not, it was just the methodology that we were doing. Yeah, that was really cool. That's the first one that comes to mind.
How about for you, Brandon? Were there anyone EVPs or any information that stuck out to you?
This moment that Mustafa's talking about, I mean, was wild, because in the moment we were doing short burst sessions, recording for about 10 minutes, playing back, and then we get this really significant piece of information that at the point I was actually walking into this portion of the building because it's been added on to this original foundation over a span of years. And I started calling the building by its original name and saying, oh, is this so-and-so? Is this portion of the building? And all of a sudden I get corrected in that EVP by who I would presume to be this historical figure that we were trying to communicate with. We were actually in his study, and a place that he spent a significant amount of time, and also a place where anytime anyone tried to break into his home, he would shoot them dead in the doorway, which is pretty crazy. Whole different story with that. But that specific moment was wild. And to think that we possibly communicated with this very prominent historical figure and I was corrected by him was definitely a fascinating moment for sure.
Kevin or Amelia, did you guys have any strange experiences like that kind of blew your mind?
Not necessarily EVP wise. I guess what I would say would be more mind blowing for me is some of the things where we were able to collect and document data on different devices that were right next to each other. There was a episode in season 2 where we had 3 devices sitting on this barrel, and it would interact with which device we told it to. There's a spot in season 3 where we were actually able to document anomalies with environmental changes and changes in barometric pressure and that type of stuff. So being able to correlate all those together, that was one of my favorite moments in the whole series.
Wonderful. I have some audience questions for you guys, if you don't mind. Merle, we're going to start with one for you from the Doug Shelby. Hey, Merle, you still got that creepy doll?
I do, and she's out on loan right now being researched by another team. She'll be back soon.
By the way, a certain museum up by our area where we're going to be investigating on this weekend, they would love it if you had an extra haunted doll to put in their location.
Done.
Yeah, so bring one up with you. All right, let us go over to Bryson. Are ghosts stuck in one spot, or is there spooky public transit? Mustafa, let's start with you on that one.
Jeez Louise, I can't even pretend to begin to understand what an afterlife or what the, that dimension which ghosts presumably reside in looks like. But I will say at the one location that Malia referenced, Hall Place, we did have what we believe to be some really, really interesting conversations that went on for about what Brandon was over 3 hours, where we were going back and forth, and we were asking all of these questions about, the afterlife and all of these, just these questions that we had, like, what's it like? Do you see things as you did when you were alive? Can you teleport from place to place? And I don't know if we got any solid answers to that, but it did seem like the one recurring thing that we kept getting confirmation of was that there are certain things that they can and cannot say. As weird as that sounds, and as of a cop out as that might seem, it sounds like there's things that they cannot say. It did seem like we confirmed that they kind of travel at the same speed as which they do in real life. They walk to places and that takes the same amount of time. But Then there was this other really, again, this sounds like so weird and like super heady and like, whoa, man. But like, it really got to a point where we were like, we thought we had invited somebody else who we met on an investigation who kind of provided that same back and forth to us. And then after we had kind of like requested if they could bring this person there, all of our devices just kind of lit up like Christmas trees, man. Like everything just kind of lit up as if to like, you know, we perceive that as if like, oh wow, there's another entity here with us right now that like entered the game or entered the chat, if you will. So I don't know if there's a spooky public transit, but if there is, I hope it's more like the public transit they have in like Austria and and like Switzerland, and not NJ Transit, because NJ Transit sucks. Your train gets canceled all the time and it's always late. It's really bad.
Not a problem. All right, let's move on here to another question from our audience here. Let us go over to Joe in California. Can a place become haunted because ghost hunters keep going there? There's an interesting question.
I think so. I think Bobby Mackey's is a good example of that. I'd say I think Malia would probably agree with that, because Malia found some information about that building that not a lot of people know. I think we're actually probably one of the first shows to talk about that specific piece of true history associated with Bobby Mackey's. But I think that actually the episode's called The Devil Effect. That's what we named it, because all of these different paranormal investigators, ghost hunters, are going there and going over these same talking points about a specific piece of history that really has nothing to do with that building. And Malia actually uncovered some stuff that was really interesting. And I think that that perceived history, that perceived portal to hell, if you want to call it that, it seems to be replicating itself in some specific way because of those people's belief systems, and however many years now they've been going there and projecting that into its environment.
Yeah, I definitely think that's something that we deal with a lot. It's that thought form manifestation theory. And I think the Annie Whipple case is like a perfect example of that. Like Bobby Mackey's, absolutely, and Annie Whipple. It's these people continuously go to these places and keep telling the same stories and want to, like, they truly want to believe this narrative. And so it's like, what does that belief do to a place? Are they creating it? And so it is very interesting. So I would venture and say that I think that they absolutely could create a haunting for sure.
And that's actually a theory that we tested at Bethlehem Academy, and had some very significant findings with it, which kind of blew my mind.
Do you think then that maybe, it almost becomes like a tulpa type of atmosphere where you've created your own energy because you've put so much into it?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we documented some really compelling environmental changes that seems to suggest that that's entirely, or could possibly be very well the case. Like Kevin said, at Bethlehem Academy, and I think for us, it's really rewarding. I mean, we've worked with pretty much the same crew, more or less. Folks behind the camera, production assistants, and all of that, and to kind of see them treated as like, oh, they're very much a part of documenting this whole experience as much as we are. To see their ears perk up, or see them in the dark, kind of like looking around, like, what the hell was that? Like, that's really, really cool. You kind of clock it, but you're so busy working. And then at the end of the investigation, at the end of the night, when you're kind of sitting back and you're cracking open a few cold ones with everybody, and you're kind of just going over like, whoa, what the hell just happened? That was like amazing. And you're like sitting there like, man, was it good for you? Yeah, it was. And then you're like sitting there. It's really, really, really dope to have that happen. But there's definitely something to thought form manifestation. And in some instances, I think, like Bobby Mackey's, there might be entities there that are not very happy with being misrepresented, I think, in terms of what people are constantly bringing over there. Somebody comes into your house and they're calling you this, and you're this, and you're this, and you're this, and you're this. After a while, I think you're going to get kind of ornery. You're going to get a little mad about it,
Have any one of you, during these new investigations that you've been conducting, had anything other than paranormal incidents happen whether it's ufological, extraterrestrial, cryptid. Have you had the combinations happen?
I'll let Kevin talk about that. It was one of the locations we went to. It's a weird crossover episode, right? I mean, the paranormal, the overall scope of it, we don't know what the hell's going on, right? We have no clue. I mean, what's a ghost? What is interdimensional beings? We don't know. How does that cross over? We're not sure. But Kevin, talk about the farmhouse a little bit and talk about what that was like and how that crossed over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we really had anything or much at all paranormal going on that night until we started talking about aliens, specifically grays. And one of the interviewees we had there was an apparent UFO abductee at one time. And to bring him in and incorporate him into the investigation, even Malia, when you were downstairs talking with the other lady and getting ready to go up into the attic, and the control camera up there was picking up pressure changes while you were talking about it before going up there. She also had a lot of UFO experiences at that place. And it was different. I know before we had investigated there, I went to check the place out by myself, and it was, being in that place by yourself was super, super, super uncomfortable. Just a constant feeling of being watched. And then to get in there with everyone and, kind of hit on these things and get results from, the equipment and stuff like that was just, it was weird.
Yeah, what's really crazy about that case too is a case we worked earlier in the season. The guy that ran the building, he used to be the director of MUFON here in the state of Kentucky, and he was called out on that case because of one of the witnessers, I guess you would call them, a UFO abductee, had him come out to the building, and this guy wasn't a ghost guy, didn't really believe in ghosts. He was at the location for a UFO conference, and he walks into this building and gets brutally attacked. I mean, he was beaten up, and MUFON investigated the case and actually went out and documented it, and he was bruised all over his body, scratched, and he believes that there's a connection between these abductions that he experienced and this location. And not only that, the woman that we interviewed there as well, a woman named Debbie, when Malia and her went into the building, something in the building started causing this crazy high-pitched frequency. And still to this day, we don't know where it was coming from, but it only started when she came in and she started talking about these UFO experiences she had, right, Malia?
Yeah, I gotta say, it was to date the strangest experience. And it was just, I'm down with the paranormal. UFOs, it's a whole other beast. And I'm like, here we go. I really just had to jump in. It's like, we're doing this. And when we started getting, the only activity we were getting was we brought up, aliens or grays. And I think the thing is, dealing with experiencers and having this, moment with them and seeing in their eyes, truly, like they 100% believe what they have gone through, like wholeheartedly, and you can't help but be captivated by that. But the thing that I wasn't prepared for was the level of fear that they still had about their experience they've had and the ongoing experiences they think they're having. And for me, it just got really real because there was, again, it's one of those locations where there's, supposedly a different energy with just females in the space. So I went in with Debbie and our female cam op, Emily. And all of a sudden, there was this horrific high-pitched squealing. And I literally radioed in and I was like, is there anything that any of our equipment that could be doing this? Because this has never happened before. And Debbie just looks at me and she goes, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, oh, what? And she's like, and she believed it was because she was in this space and they reacted.
And she never heard it.
No, she didn't. She didn't. And it's funny. So, I think this is one of two locations in all 3 seasons where by the end of it, we're all like, okay, let's get out of here. Like, it was so weird. There was so many personal, strange experiences. And the ongoing joke now, anytime things get really weird, like in a case where like, are we still at the farmhouse? Have we never left the farmhouse? Like it left this effect on us for sure.
My goodness. All right, let's get to a couple more questions from our audience. We only got about 4.5 minutes here. Let's go to Derek. For you, Kevin, did you ever experience anything paranormal, alien, or cryptid while in the law enforcement field?
Honestly, not in the field. as much as I've looked for it, I worked for a smaller county, a whole county population of like 23,000 people. So it wasn't a huge county. I would constantly go out, hitting gravel roads, looking for places, trying to find things. But yeah, unfortunately, in the time I was there, I didn't, which is kind of sad.
All right. Final question from our audience tonight goes to Izzy, Stradlin, and Beth. Do you all try and lead them, the spirits, to cross over before you leave?
I think the only time we ever kind of came across that was again at the Hall place, and we actually, it seemed like that was something that was requested by the entity, and we had confirmed that multiple times. We believe with them interacting with our devices, and we brought somebody in who we trusted to do that and to help the purported entity with that process. And we had some pretty incredible results with that. So I think that's the only time I can recall where that happened. For me, I can't speak for everybody. I just kind of feel like that's not my place to go and to try to like help them cross over or whatever that looks like or whatever that is. Because then you got belief systems that play into that. And I can't pretend to know what belief system the entities are a part of. I know for me, if I were to, pass on and I'm lingering around, I'm not crossing over. I want to stick around and mess with my kids and then, bother them and go hang out with my friends who survived me and, play pranks on them and chill out with them and just try to see what's going on in the world as much as possible because it's what I know. Maybe go mess with the Easy Pass people for constantly overcharging me on tolls or whatever. But that's the only instance I can remember.
All right. Let us figure this out when it comes to crossing over spirits. Is it a good thing, bad thing? Should it not be tampered with, Brandon?
It all depends on belief system, really. I think it's a hard thing for me to visualize and believe that there's an all-knowing person that has the ability to walk into a place and have that kind of power. You know what I mean? It's kind of very Gandalf-ish, I think, it's like kind of a tough thing to imagine. But again, I think it's up to different belief systems. I think it's up to different locations. But to me, it's a hard thing to imagine and a hard thing for me to believe at times.
Well, I think also it's, I think I do speak for all of us. We're all there with such respect, and we really do. We're communicating, we believe, with people. And so you don't want to promise them something that you can't deliver on. And so I think we really try to walk that line of, is there messages? Is there something they want people to know? But as far as whatever that crossover might be, we're not the people to do that. And who are we to tell these people that if they are stuck, hey, we'll do this thing because it sounds good and we actually don't have any follow through. I just think that's disrespectful and it's irresponsible. So, it's just not our place.
How about you, Kevin?
I have to agree with what Malia said. I wouldn't know the first thing on how to cross someone over. I mean, we can document their presence, but that's why we called in someone for Hall Place, because we're not in a position to know how to cross people over.
Well, Merle, it's that time for us to say good night to everybody on this part of the show. I get to keep going another hour. You guys get to go and enjoy the rest of your nights. But Merle, I'm very excited to see you this weekend up here for our adventures. Safe flights back home tomorrow from Winnipeg. And Brandon, Mustafa, you guys are old friends of this show, and it's so glad to have you guys back on. Let's not make it 2 years again, okay? Let's not do that. Maybe later this year we could do a Halloween special with your entire team. I think that would be a lot of fun. And Kevin and Malia, very nice getting to know both of you. And good luck, everyone, on Haunted Discoveries on T&E coming up this fall. I believe it's this fall, correct? Coming up this fall, right on. Coming up next, we're taking the night off from Among the Missing. So little Timmy Senor is going to be right in the UFO Report, a full half hour of UFOs coming up on Spaced Out Radio right after this. Stay tuned. Hour 3 coming up next. Great show, everyone.
Quick
Great
question.
show.
Fun.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That was
That
a
was a
good
lot of
time.
Yeah, we had fun. So, yeah, this is that awkward time where I tell you guys all to piss off and, hit the road. No, I'm kidding. No, but thank you. I'm really looking forward to you guys, man.
Thanks for coming on, guys.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Having
Thanks for
us.
having us.
I like being able to brag to my son saying, hey, see those two guys there? Those are daddy's friends.
Oh, man.
He's like, he'll be like, why are you on there, Dad? I'll be like, I'm fucking idiot.
You're the man, Dave. You're the man, Merle.
Well, let's do
All right,
Halloween.
guys.
Let's do that. Just let us know.
Yeah.
We'll be here.
100%.
We're going to do that. Merle,
All right.
book it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
All right,
you.
guys.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much.
Good night.
Good night.
Dave.
Good night. All right. I'll be right back, everyone. What a good show. God damn, that was fun. Ow. I'm hurting, but hey, Timmy, I'm going to bring you on right at the top of hour 3 here. right. Thank you tonight to Simon, Louis times 3, W. Decker, Lala times 2, and Jake, Vaughn, Charles, and Deb. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. And we're going to get going with hour number 3 next. So stay tuned, everybody.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Caesura. Caesura is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. Normally we at this time of the night, we go to Among the Missing from Steve Stockton, but he's on his honeymoon right now. So we're going to skip that part, and we're going to bring in little Timmy Cedar with the UFO report.
Nobody's going to know. They're going to know.
Big Tim Senor, the Timbit, finally getting ready to come to Canada for a lot of fun under the sun and a lot of weird stuff about to happen here. I'm so looking forward to this weekend, my man, to see you again.
Excited is such a small word. I wish there was like a few of them that we could stack in the excitement. I'm definitely pumped. I have no idea what to expect. I know something's going to happen, right? So bring on the woo. I'm ready, and I've got cameras rolling. So let's see what we can get.
It's going to be pretty great. I mean, we're going to be doing some things with a camera. You can't be too specific of what we're doing, but let's just say Merle's going to be here. Samantha Mowat is going to be here. And we are going to be out in the middle of the forest looking for weird things to happen. Speaking of weird things that are going on right now, Tim, we're going to get into some deep talk here regarding this latest UFO hearings that are going to be happening. They are taking place next week. They are including Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett, who has been a real positive mouthpiece for the UFO disclosure movement. Whether or not he could get anywhere with it, that's another story. But just your thoughts on all of this.
Well, I know Representative Luna is also going to be there and presenting, and I'm sure that everyone knows that is going to bring a whole new realm of questions to the table. And so regardless of who else is going to be there, I think that that's going to be someone that's going to be asking interesting questions. The whistleblower list, that's still up in the air. Regardless of what that list is, whether we know them or not, it's going to be details presented to Congress, and at that point, representatives will have the opportunity to ask questions so we can get to the bottom of it. If they're talking about craft and bodies, this is the chance to ask for the details. And I think that this is the time to do so. So, yeah, my first thoughts are that this is something to look forward to on the 26th in a big way. I know I'll be watching.
I know I will be paying attention as well. And coming up, we're going to see who is actually speaking. There's a lot of rumors going around whether or not Lou Elizondo will be one of the speakers in this, whether it's going to be David Grush again. I'm hearing rumors that it's going to be the 3 fighter pilots, Ryan Graves, Alex Dietrich, as well as David Fravor, who are going to be speaking in this 3-person panel once again. And, I don't know who it is. I don't know if they're going to have any new faces getting into this. Okay. But I don't know if there is going to be any real bombshells being dropped here on the UFO world if it's the same people where for the last number of years outside of David Grush that we've actually heard their stories.
Well, I actually think quite the opposite. The fact that if they are bringing people that we've seen publicly before, this is the chance for Congress to get into it deeper. So if there are questions and answers being taken place behind closed doors, at least there will be some answers that are new for Congress. So the public portion, obviously, that's the part that we'll get. Some of that, I'm sure, will be new to us. So let's just fingers crossed, hope that that whistleblower list will include some new faces and some new stories from potentially people that we've already seen come forward publicly. My thoughts in particular are really positive at this point. From everything that I'm hearing, this is just another step forward in getting this out into the public purview. The responses will definitely be hit by the main media. So we are moving this narrative forward. This is what disclosure, quote unquote, kind of looks like, at least from the government's perspective. This is the way they're doing it. So we're really along for the ride at this point. We do have some push, but I feel like this is going to be the next step. Hopefully we'll get some educated questions.
I hope so too. What do you want to see through this? I mean, because the first 3 hearings really haven't been impressive. They really have struggled over time in order to grab the attention of what we are or what we're trying to get to with this. What do you want to see out of this?
Like I said, I would love to get deeper into what David Grush brought forward. If he's one of the people that we get here on the 26th coming and speaking again, I would love the details. Let's get specifics and not just necessarily 1933 and some vagueness. Let's get where that craft is, where those bodies are, and some details. If you've heard about them, I'm sure you asked questions. Like, let's hear the answers that you received when you asked, like, what did those bodies look like? What did the craft look like? Were they intact? And, we'd heard rumors of a craft that you enter and it's the size of a football field, whereas it's only the size of maybe 20 meters across on the outside. That's interesting. Like, if you can point to where that exists, let's talk about that, So if Lou Elizondo is one of the people that come forward, I would like to know where the images are that he refers to when it comes to seeing the pilots in the craft. That was one of the claims that he made. I would love to know more about those details. And also perhaps more about why the programs have been hidden for so long. What is the big secret? Why don't they want us to know about potential life on this planet existing without us knowing about it? It wouldn't surprise us, right? We come across new species all the time. It shouldn't be a big surprise that there's potentially one more that's gone on existing without us knowing about it, whether it's under the oceans or underground or right next to us in a parallel universe, if that's the way it's working at this point. But we just need to know. And so I think those are the hard questions that we need to ask more depth on when it comes to these public hearings. So if there are massive claims, let's get those details out publicly so that the public isn't scratching their heads at this point and wondering what their government is spending the money on.
Well, I mean, here's the big thing that I don't understand. And maybe it's Tim Burchett talking tough, like a lot of politicians do. I mean, we saw Senator Gillibrand talking tough before the last big hearing on UFOs, and it ended up being a real nothing burger when it came down to it. There was really no real big story that popped out of that, outside of the fact that there were now 800 reports, and that number seems to be increasing, which is a good thing, but I mean, if they plan on trying to get, whether it's Elizondo, whether it's David Fravor or Alex Dietrich or whomever, whether they try and get new information out of them or not, these guys have to be very careful. They're under NDA. And if those NDAs are broken, they could get in a heap load of trouble, with a lot of things, maybe job loss, maybe pension loss, demotion in rank still, because their pensions are on their current rank. And it may be something along those lines. I don't know. I mean, for you, Tim, do you expect any bombshells to come out next week?
Well, if there are any bombshells, I do think that it would be the sort of thing that was okayed by the DoD. There won't be anything that's not pre-approved. That's for sure. And we know that classified information is still a problem. And even though we've had this bipartisan measure that aims to force the release of those UFO records, the legislation backed by Chuck Schumer, that is a review board to work on declassifying documents and renegotiating how to classify oncoming information so that it doesn't get bypassed by the people that need to know at Arrow. Those are the people that need to be receiving the information so that they can be informing Congress. And if the information is being triangulated away from them because of its classification, that is a massive problem. And I think that that is what this measure aims to handle. And I think that that's a big step, and that will allow these bombshells to come forward. Because once Congress is informed, we can see legislation put in place, and that legislation will scream, obviously and clearly, what information they've received. And so, yes, I think we're going to see something coming. It may be a subtle bombshell, but I think we will see something.
I'm very much interested to see who is going to be on that panel. We've already mentioned a few names. We do know that Bob Lazar will not be one of the people. I mean, there's been a lot of people, around social media, especially on Twitter, who have been trying to get Bob Lazar on here and trying to get Bob into Congress, but he doesn't feel he has anything to add. He wants out of it, but he's always been reluctant when it comes to this. It really is no surprise that Bob Lazar, 99.99999%, is not going to be one of those people.
Right. Well, instead of Bob Lazar, Eric Davis. I mean, that's an easy second if you're going to go into that genre, because that's kind of the other unreachable at this point, but I think should be brought forward. That would be my number one, because I feel that that could be the source of a lot of the information that we're hearing. So why not go directly to the source? That's my personal opinion. I have no idea who's on this list. I would love to consider, Hal Puthoff. That would be a great name to be on that list. And I've heard, just like you, some of the pilots from Twitter and some of that universe where there's some buzz and it's all hypothetical. And people say that to be skeptical and to, well, not necessarily skeptical, but to be kind of negative about the hearings, and that we've already heard from these people before. But this is a very different scenario where these people will be brought before Congress, tell their story, and then they can have an interaction with Congress members that want to question them. And then there's the public portion as well. So I wouldn't expect to hear the same thing we've heard before, definitely a reiteration, but we can expect there to be questions and answers. And I think that that could be, the realm that your bombshell lives in. So I'm definitely positive for this. I'm not expecting much, but I'm positive.
The idea that we're going to get pertinent information, maybe aliens, maybe the crash retrievals. Do you see that conversation happening in public or behind the scenes again?
Well, I think that definitely we'll get a reiteration of it publicly, because let's consider that we only heard it from News Nation and the Ross Coldhart interview. So the public has yet to hear it in that consideration. It's only been led through those channels on media. So yes, I think we could consider a reiteration of David Grush's story. I don't necessarily expect any new revelations because, again, this would have to be something that's pre-approved by the DOD, at least for the public portion. Now, interestingly, he would be questioned confidentially behind closed doors with Congress members. And that's where the deep dive obviously will take place, because that there are some smart people sitting there and they are prepared with questions. And so the public portion may not be the bombshell that we're expecting or hoping for. I wouldn't say expecting, but hoping for. But I do consider the fact that we may see some new information, at least on the David Grush story, if he is a whistleblower, that is brought forward. And that's the only way I think that could be brought forward publicly, because they've already kind of laid the groundwork with him, and at least given him a substantial backstory, so that if people wanted to look deeper after this hearing, they could go ahead and do their research and find the News Nation story and see Ross Coldhart's interview with him.
I don't think he's going to have the ability, Grush that is, to say anything that he hasn't said already. Look, he dropped some major bombs. Even though he was never an eyewitness to it, the people that he worked with stated that they did have crash retrievals, that they did have fully intact craft, that they did have the bodies of the pilots of these craft. And maybe, well, he never said this, but we can only assume that he also meant potentially alive, or at least alive at one point of these craft. I don't know what more David Grush can say, considering that everything he said, he would have had to have been approved by his superiors to talk about in a public light. And I don't know if that is going to push over the edge a different type of scenario. I really don't.
Well, consider if the whistleblower protection is enacted, then he should be able to bypass his NDA with Congress in those closed door meetings. Obviously not publicly, because that would probably break his NDA agreement. But I believe that with the whistleblower protection, the whole point of this was to get deeper questions to Congress. So do you agree that that protection is enacted and he can talk deeply with some of those members?
I think he'll be able to talk behind the scenes, probably a lot more than what he has. Maybe I don't think he can give any more resolute stories, but I think he can talk as long as it's secured. Okay, he might be able to go into more detail of the people he talked to, naming names, which he can't do in public. Okay, naming where these craft are being stored. That would be something that could happen in a private conversation, but getting out to the public, could you imagine the witch hunt if all of a sudden he came out and said that, oh, pick a place, okay, that these craft are sitting at Bigelow Aerospace in Las Vegas, or maybe these craft are sitting at this Lockheed Skunk Works in California. I mean, that's a lot of information. People would be picketing those places. People would be rushing the door. They would be Naruto running as fast as they could right to those locations quicker than they would trying to break into Area 51. Okay. And I really think that would be a major security risk, not only for the American Defense Department, but I mean, you have to look at what would the Russians and Chinese all of a sudden start doing, right? How would they be reacting to this? I mean, there's a lot going on here, Tim, when we get to this subject. And I just don't know how this is going to play out. This is what scares me a little bit.
Well, my question is, what if something that he says confirms something that, like, say, Bob Lazar had said? And not to spin back to Bob, but if that happened and his name came out again, could he be subpoenaed?
Possibly. Possibly. I mean, why not?
And what would that mean? What would the impact of something like that? Because let's say that Eric Davis's name was dropped, then would he potentially be subpoenaed, I guess?
I would say that they need to be very careful with who they bring on. Be very careful with who they're getting their information from. Look, I don't think it's going to help. And I'm not shooting down the fighter pilots, no pun intended. But if it's David Fravor, Alex Dietrich, and Ryan Graves, what haven't they said publicly that they're going to say differently under the hearings?
Well, there may be data that's linked that they can't make public. And let's consider that their stories match some data that they can show. I would say that there's something along those lines, because otherwise you're absolutely right. But I think what you're saying is probably the way it's going to play out. But the same way they entered the Wilson Davis documents into congressional record, they can do so with anything by a congressperson's request. So all it has to do is be brought up and questioned, and then that can trigger a line of inquisition that might get interesting. And I could see something like that happening at this point.
I could see something happening like that too. But the question is the public going to get screwed on this again? And I think that's something we need to talk about in the next half hour, because the one thing that Tim Burchett has been very vocal about over the last, let's say year or two, is that there isn't enough information funneling from the government to the people regarding this subject. And there seems to be a little bit of support starting to build from that. We're going to see how true Tim Burchett really is next week. We're going to see if he is just full of hot air, or if he's a politician that actually sticks to the truth and sticks to what's going on in the UFO world. Tim Senor is here with the UFO report. We will get more back to the Tim Burchett UFO hearings coming up July 26th. We're putting a panel together for that night. So you're going to want to stick with us for all your UFO news on Spaced Out Radio.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Just for our audience, so that way our audience knows, I'm going to be, as soon as Tim and I are done, I'm going to be signing off the air, because I'm not going to get a chance to do my editing tonight. I'm going to have to do it tomorrow morning. I'm just really, really sore after my chiropractic appointment, and I can't get comfortable. So I'm going to be taking care of that once we get off air, and then I'm going to have to get up like 15 minutes, 20 minutes early to edit the show. But I just want to let everybody know that normally, we let you chat around and do our thing, and I've got this little stupid bug that has been flying into my face the entire time here since the commercial break. But I can't find it now, of course.
I had one here. It's probably that one. It probably just flew right to you.
Oh, tell me about it. It's quite okay. It's quite okay.
Are you all pumped and ready?
Oh, yeah.
I hope you've been working out, because we're going to be eating Timbits. Not this Timbits. The donuts, right? Is that a thing? Are they donuts?
They're donut holes, man.
Oh, even better. All right. Ay, caramba.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not big on carbs, but make an exception.
Yeah. Hi, Thurston Howell the Third. I keep seeing this stupid little fly in my peripheral vision. And when I go to get focused on it, I can't see it. I know it's around here somewhere.
Yeah, grab the microphone. That's definitely where.
Dave. It. Oh, well.
It's going to be good to hang out with you. You're such a character. This guy. Are we doing a show together in your little studio there, or what?
No, we'll figure something out. I got Marquise hosting on Friday night.
I'm okay.
So.
Cool. Right.
I don't know where we're going with that afterwards.
Sweet.
Well, depends, because we will probably be in the forest filming that night.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think that Friday night's going to happen.
Yeah. We'll get Terrence Hall to do the UFO report. Nice.
Yeah, you should actually get Mr. G. That dude did a great job.
Oh, Rob G, yeah. That would be a good
I'll still send him the stories and he can just read them. How's that?
Sure.
Same way I do. I just read the stories. I just do what I'm told.
Oh, I hear you.
Oh, easiest gig. Oh, look at this. He's in the chat and says, anytime, buddy. What a guy, this guy.
Oh, sweet Robbie G. Best chin hair in UFO radio right there. Jimmy 999X, how you doing? Skip to Malou. Good to see you. Chris.
Yeah.
Teen. Nice
there
to have
it
you
is.
back.
I love that pause.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys haven't subscribed to the Social Dig, get over there and subscribe.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, Marquise. So it'll be Marquise hosting, and then just have Rob G jump in for the UFO report, and they can gig it together. Oh, that'll be music. Dude,
that's a good show.
That's a good show right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What a duet.
A beautiful duet.
Those voices, forget about it.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got 20 seconds. Big thank you, Deb, Charles, Louis ×3, Lala ×2, Vaughn, Lara, Jake, Simon, W. Decker. Very much appreciate the love. Thank you to everybody who's hit subscribe and rang that bell tonight. Hi, MM3. How you doing? Sweet Tony D. Good to see you. And we're going with the final half hour right now. We round at third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with Tim Senor and the UFO Report. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. And right before the break, I had mentioned to you, Congressman Tim Burchett out of the state of Tennessee has been very loud and proud to talk about how he wants full disclosure. He wants everything on the table, everything the United States government and the agencies and the military knows about UFOs. He feels that all of it should be in the hands of the American public, that there should be no secrets when it comes to this subject of whether or not we are alone in this universe or elsewhere. Pardon me. And July 26th, it is going to be a major event, and all eyes are once again going to be on Washington, D.C. for the latest UFO hearings. My question to you is this. Considering how loud Tim Burchett has been regarding wanting full disclosure of everything, what if this hearing flops? What if he doesn't open up to the public what he has learned? What if he goes silent and keeps everything behind closed doors, as we've seen others do in the past 3? How does that hurt his reputation?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that particularly happening. It would potentially hurt his reputation. We've seen him come out of those hearings disappointed in the past, and I think fired up for the future. And the fact that he's going to be, leading the parade on this one, I think puts him in a place that he needs to be. And he's got tons of support with Representative Luna, and I think even though she's a freshman, I guess you would say, congressperson or congresswoman, she's been tapped by the oversight chair, James Comer, to co-lead the committee's investigation. So I feel like the fact that there are two people that are really strong on this topic, and between the two of them, I think they have a deep understanding and have sat in on a lot of the conversations that were confidential and not public in the past. And that was part of their outrage. And part of what Tim was saying was that he was aware of all of these things taking place, and they were held as secrets from the public. And that was what he wanted to change. And Representative Luna has been very clear on her position, saying that it's very likely that there's life forms out there. I think that that's a strong position to come into a hearing with. So it's a bold statement. And so she'll be asking the questions to hopefully support that theory, or that concept at least, because it sounds like she may know maybe a little more than she's letting on publicly. Same way Tim Burchett has been very clear that he can't, say a lot of the things that he already knows, but, he likes to be as clear as hinting as he can to what that is. But again, it's that lack of transparency that outrages Tim. I think that puts him in a great position here to co-lead this committee.
Well, I want to see it, though. He's got to prove that to us, okay? He's got to prove that he is not just a bunch of hot air when it comes to this subject. And I think this is his litmus test, because if he fails on this and he fails to bring anything out, everybody's going to absolutely lambaste him. on social media. And you know as well as I do, the UFO public on places like Twitter are not very kind at the best of times, let alone the worst of times, which would be that this guy who's claimed he was going to get it done couldn't get it done. This is where I just don't see it. I mean, we'll find out soon enough who they are going to choose to be the speakers of the event. That's just hours away. Okay, so I don't know, Tim. I mean, I want to see this happen. I love the fact that he has been a champion of true disclosure, whether you agree with his politics or not. Okay, he also shows that this is a very, very bipartisan topic. It's not a Republican topic. It's not a Democrat topic. It is an everybody topic in the United States. And I think that's a good thing. We need information, though. The public needs information. No more stories, not things that, are going to be rumored to be behind closed doors. Okay? I don't think David Grush could say any more. Is there going to be a new face? There possibly could be. The two groups that I have heard, once again, are the three fighter pilots, David Fravor, Alex Dietrich, and Ryan Graves. But I've also heard it could be Lou Elizondo, David Grush, and James Lakatsky. Well, we've heard from all of them, especially Elizondo, over the years. Your thoughts, Tim?
Well, yeah, I really have no thoughts on who's going to be speaking, but I definitely consider the strength in the committee that's put together. In a recent tweet from Representative Anna Paulina Luna, she says, on July 26th, I and Representative Tim Burchett, as well as our Democrat counterpart, Representative Moskowitz, will be leading out the hearing in the oversight into UAP. And so they include in this tweet some UAP facts, and I think that these are great. So 12,618 sightings were reported to Project Blue Book, and out of those sightings, 701 remained unidentified. Since last summer, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office has received 366 UAP reports, and the total reflects 247 new UAP reports and another 119 that occurred before March of 2021. And so I find that, so that sources from the Project Blue Book NPR article on the Pentagon report. So I find some of that interesting, and the fact that she's tweeting that out, that absolutely shows her position that, these are facts. They're facts that have been reported since the beginning of our investigations. And it was squashed the first time that it was brought out. And so this time we can't just let it go. This is the sort of thing that needs to be addressed, and we need to have legislation reflect that. So, I love to think of the people that could be brought forward in support of this, but what they need is deep analysis of what's being brought forward, because we can see that just the reports aren't enough. Just the whistleblowing isn't enough. It's been set back, 75 years ago. They decided they weren't going to talk about this. And then we had the Condign report and all of these other things that came forward to set it back and keep it quiet and maintain it, maintaining control. And that is exactly what Tim Burchett is screaming about, and so we're seeing, these are people that are the perfect co-chairs to lead this committee, in my opinion, at this time. Now, you want to see it. You want to see it reflected either through legislation or publicly in the hearings, the public version. I absolutely agree with you, but at the same rate, as long as the people that are able to make changes hear the information, I'm okay not knowing, to be completely honest. Yes, I want to know, but I can't demand to know. And so hopefully, we'll see some changes, and what we hope is our version of disclosure for the public will be trickled out to us. We can't have high expectations. So I do like to see that the people in this co-chair position, though, will be well knowledged and have a little bit of, let's say, a burning in their gut to get the truth and transparency squashed. Truth out and transparency squashed.
Well, we're going to see what happens. It's not that far away, and unfortunately, like everybody else, we're going to have to speculate truly what's going on with this. I mean, it's pretty how can we put it? It's pretty up in the air right now, and we can only hope that more knowledge actually comes out. More knowledge is what we need. I mean, I see more witnesses out there. If there are more David Grushes out there, is this the kind of panel that they want to come out to? That is something to think of too. I mean, do you want to be, you have your name in the same vocabulary as Tim Burchett, who really doesn't want any NDAs regarding this subject? That could be dangerous, especially if your name is tied to other black projects or worldly projects where you may have been put in danger or could put you still in danger. So, I mean, there are other things that have to be weighed in here. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that, these could be things that are weighing down a lot of people from speaking, at least at this time.
Right. The problem with that is that there has been pressure applied. They've given them a 6-month window to come forward, right? Otherwise, they can be brought forward and there can be litigation, and their NDAs may or may not be valid if they don't come forward voluntarily. So they may still have to talk, but then they may be responsible for the information. Why not come forward with, the confidentiality and the protection? So I think that they're applying some pressure to these people that are in the know, whether they're in a black budget program supported by the government or, on the books or off, whether it's being hidden in the private sector. These are the people that they're referring to. And if your name comes forward at some point and you haven't volunteered, then you may not be within the 6-month protection window. So you need to, and this is what it's stating, come forward voluntarily now. And I think that's just so that they can get this over and done with, and they've got that 6-month window to deal with whistleblowers, perhaps, at the same rate, because that's what it is on paper. But at the same rate, it does apply some pressure. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily a witch hunt, because I don't like that word politically. It's very, stigmatized, but I can see how people could consider it that, where they're saying you have to come out and volunteer this information. Otherwise there could be litigation. That's just heavy handed. So, what would your consideration on that be if you had information and you didn't want to come forward, but you knew you had to? What do you think, Dave? It's a little tedious, isn't it?
It would all depend on where it's coming from and who's holding the hearings. I don't know if, how can I put it? I don't know if I would try and push this forward if I didn't trust the politics of the person who is holding the hearings. That's where I would struggle with it. If I had information to give, I would really struggle with that.
Right.
And when I look at, if I was in that position and I look at Tim Burchett, who even in his portfolio has nothing to do with defense, has nothing to do with the agencies. He's just made this a personal issue because he saw the information. He's seen information since his curiosity got tickled by this subject. And I don't know if I would trust him in order. It doesn't matter his politics. I'm saying when it comes to my personal name and the defense of this, I don't know if I could trust him to uphold the oath of the law. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that it will be one of those things that we have to kind of wait and see on. I don't know. But what do you expect to see? What are your thoughts? Because I know you asked me. Do you think that potentially something will trickle out of this that will be new for the public?
No, nothing. I mean, we may get another name. We may get another incident. I don't think we're getting any photographs. I don't think we're getting any videos. I don't think we're getting any locations to what's going on. I don't think we're getting any of that. We may get more numbers. We may learn and find out that Arrow's numbers have gone up to 912 or 857, or maybe it passed 1,000. Who knows?
Right.
But I don't think, as for high quality information that David Grush dropped, I don't see us getting anything like that.
What do you think of some of the surrounding statements that were made by Ross Coulthart at the same time of the alleged huge buried UFO outside the United States? Do you think that any of that is linked to the conversations that come up? Why was that brought up at this time? And I mean, is he insinuating that this is like a craft that is remnants of like a bygone civilization? Or is it something that landed here from somewhere else? Like there was no reference after he brought that up. And I was wondering if it was sourced from David Grush because it was right around the same time. I mean, do you have thoughts on, will we hear any details from more? If, like, let's say David Grush is the person that they bring forward in this whistleblower hearing publicly. Do you think that the follow-up questions would be brought out publicly? Because obviously his interview is not really that long. If you take out all of the commercials, it's probably only about a 20-minute conversation. So potentially there would be more in-depth and more leading questions that could be made public. Do you think that that could happen? That we could get some of the where and when and how?
I would hope. I'm not positive on it.
Right.
I don't feel comfortable saying yes or no. I really don't.
Because it would have to be pre-approved by the DoD. Now, do you think that portions of what he knows, the names and places and all of that, are the confidential portion that he will share with Congress at least?
Tim, you're asking a lot of hypotheticals here.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I don't know how to answer it because I don't know how the system works. In the end, no matter what happens, we do know that someone is going to be left out in the cold. And 99.9% of the time, left out in the cold means the public doesn't get the information that they want or deserve. And I just see that happening again and again and again with this subject.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to sew it up. Can we lead the last little bit kind of on this topic, but a little interesting? I'd love to get your take on this. Still on topic, but not on the public hearing portion. So scientists have explored the possibility of detecting ancient civilizations in Earth's geological record. And so a recent paper called The Silurian Hypothesis discusses how traces of industrial civilizations could be found. While fossils and artifacts are unlikely to survive over millions of years, anomalous changes in chemical compositions could serve as clues. By studying geological anomalies and applying models to other planets, scientists hope to understand if civilizations existed in the distant past here on planet Earth. What are your thoughts on the Silurian hypothesis that we can potentially detect ancient civilizations in Earth's geological record.
Oh, Tim, you would make that the final question of the night, wouldn't you? I don't even know where to start with that. I don't even know where to start. I think that just a simple answer to that, and I'm going to dodge this. I think the simple answer to that is there is evidence that shows that humanity seems to have been visited for millennia. And I don't think we need any geological analysis to try and figure that out. I think it's in the hieroglyphs and the petroglyphs, not only in the pyramids, but look here in North America, what First Nations, ancient people used to draw on the rocks. Okay, they've drawn enough aliens. Look at the Nazca lines. There's another example. I think we know what's going on. And that's about all we're going to stand with. And Tim, I got to cut it off right there because it is time for us to go home tonight. Yes, we actually get to go sleep in our beds, and I will see you in a couple of days' time, my man.
Indeed, I look forward to it, buddy. It's been fun, and thank you, chat. Thanks for staying up later.
Absolutely, and big thank you to Merle and the team, Haunted Discoveries, for a great paranormal show tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. Good night, everybody. I'm going to cut this short, and I got to get to bed. I'm so sore right now, but we'll talk to you tomorrow night.